An engineer who was haunted by routine until the end of his life was able to be reborn. In a world ruled by magic, he chose machines. A young lord inheriting ruins, mocked for dreaming of iron and steam. While nobles chant spells, he forges engines. While mages summon fire, he builds factories. From gears and sparks, his empire rises, turning fantasy into revolution. Can one man's vision outshine centuries of magic? Let's find out. The story begins in a hospital, where a medical worker loudly called for a doctor and said that a patient was having trouble breathing. He said loudly that a mask was urgently needed. The patient was conscious and thought his name was Jin Lashan and that he was a mechanical engineer. Due to overwork, he had a heart attack and would soon die. His parents died in a car accident and he was left an orphan. After graduating from university, he worked for a company for 20 years with terribly low pay. All his life, he was alone and had never even held a woman's hand. The doctor loudly called him, but he remained silent and wondered what was the meaning of such a life. He was so tired and just wanted to close his eyes and sleep. He woke up in another room and wondered, is this a hospital? How much does such a fee cost? He noticed a system window that said, "Welcome to the magical continent of Eldria." He reached out to it and asked, "What is this?" He looked to the side, saw his new appearance, and wondered, what is happening, and why does he look like this? A week later, he had gotten used to what had happened and was sitting in his office. A girl came in with a tray and told Mr. Rain that she had brought him tea. He thanked Leah with a small smile and thought that a week later, he understood his place in the new reality. He died in his past life and was reincarnated in the body of this guy named Rain Edgar. He is the third son of the Grand Duke of Aldarian, and he also has a brother and sister. He is the youngest child in the family, whom everyone adores. Did he really get this as a reward for the suffering of his past life? The continent is called Eldria. In this world, everything depends on magic. The Cardorial Empire is the largest. There are not only the human race here, but also representatives of other races, for example, elves and dwarves. The Edgar family is a noble family with a territory of about 300,000 square kilometers and about 1 million subjects. He, a nobleman, has not only a luxurious castle and robes, but also a personal servant, a wonderful life instead of his past life. Leah called the master with a smile and said that the head wanted to discuss something with him. He should come with her. After that, a servant entered the office and told the master that his son had arrived. He allowed him to enter, and he left to convey his words. The protagonist entered the office and asked his father, did he call him? The Aldarian, with a serious expression on his face, asked if he knew why he was here. He looked at him with a calm expression and said that he had no idea. He said that at his age, he could independently rule his territory. Has he already chosen where he would like to go? He approached the map and said that in the future his possessions would be in the northwest, although it is relatively safe. Due to the shortage of magicians, it is difficult to solve the food problem. Although their land is now under control, the future of the empire is not so rosy. He, with a serious expression on his face, thought that he was telling the truth. The royal family of the empire is in decline, but political corruption is flourishing. There are countless open and secret conflicts between the lords of the empires. After reincarnation, he became more indifferent to people, as he was before. He will never abandon them. The Aldarian looked at him and wondered if he was putting too much pressure on him. He called his name and said that he should remember that he always has them. MC, with a surprised expression, asked if the food problem is solved. Will security improve? He said that this problem cannot be solved simply like that. He thought that he still thinks like a child, who believes that problems can be solved with a snap. He thought that he relied not on passion, but on age-old wisdom. He told his father that he can leave it to him. He will solve this problem. After some time, he thought that Aisling is the westernmost part of the territory of the Grand Duke Aldarian, bordering the enemy lands of Duke Soren to the north. To the west, the borders are the territory of the elves, and to the south lies the Endless Ocean. Due to its location at the intersection of three borders, Aisling often finds itself at the epicenter of wars. This has led to the fact that once fertile lands become barren, and the population rapidly declining. He was riding in a carriage and thought that the prerequisite for the Industrial Revolution was the required number of labor. A way to increase the population must be found. He is surprised by the fact that he has acquired new abilities. The system notified that the owner should use scanning on people. 6 out of 10 completed. He thought that with this, he could find out the statistics of the required person. After testing the skill on his family, he got a rough idea of the people in this world. It seems that his primary task is to attract talented people to the territory. Leah remembered that his father had previously told her that she should keep an eye on him and not allow him to do anything unnecessary. She agreed and thought that she hoped that the young master would not get into trouble. Sometime later, in the mayor's mansion of the city of Essling, the mayor sat in front of the hooded man and said that he had heard that the Grand Duke's son would be arriving in the city today. They should make the first move, right? Rumor has it that not only the Grand Duke is attached to his son, but his brother and sister adore him. The man sat calmly in front of him and said that they should refrain from any action. They should wait for instructions. The mayor asked, however, What if he discovered his tax and financial fraud? He thought about it and said that it seemed that such a man would not look into such things. As soon as the young master arrived, they would confuse and distract him. He should arrive soon. They should go out and greet him. He thought that it was time for the Aldarian to pay his bills. At the same time, Rain got out of the carriage and thought with a slightly dissatisfied look that, as he had thought, the lands were desolate due to lack of strength. He called Leah and said that she should give him a map. He looked at it and thought that if they could deepen the river to the west and build a canal connecting it with the southern seaport. His attention was drawn to a girl who told her father that she asked him to stop gambling. He was losing all their money. They needed it for mom's treatment. The man, with a dissatisfied expression on his face, loudly said that she should give him the money. This time, he would definitely win it back. He tried to snatch the wallet from her hands and said loudly that she should let go. It was none of her business. She continued to resist, refused, and said that her mother needed it more. He raised his hand, about to hit her, but before he could finish, the protagonist punched him in the face. However, because of this, his hands swelled, and he screamed in pain. Leah approached him and said that if he was going to hit someone, he should warn her next time. He said that it was emotional. That's how it happened. She should check on this girl's condition, and he would talk to this jerk. He approached him, and with a serious expression on his face asked, "Is he taking money from the family and wasting it? On top of that, he is also swinging at the daughter? Does he have no brains at all?" He looked at him with a displeased look and asked who he even was. He came closer and said that it wasn't that important. If he saw him going to the casino again, he would order his head to be cut off. He understood that, right? The man, looking frightened, started to run away from him, loudly asked him not to do it and said that he would not do it again. He turned around and with a calm expression on his face asked, "Is she okay?" He thought that he needed to check her status. The girl approached him and thanked him for his help. She wiped away her tears and said that if he took the money, she didn't know what she would do. MC saw the system window, which said that this was Lillian Eldre, leadership 45 points, strength and magic 25 points, loyalty 50 points, strategy 55 points, special attribute, agriculture and harvesting. He looked at it and thought that her stats weren't particularly outstanding, but she had the skill he needed. He asked if she was going to the city to find a doctor for her mother, right? She could get into their carriage and they could ride together. She was surprised by what he heard and said that, however, she was so dirty and would stain his carriage. He said with a calm expression that these were just materials put together, nothing special. Besides, how could there be a casino in a place where poverty reigns? He thought that last fall, the Grand Duke of Sorin attacked the city. Many soldiers died. This spring, a severe flood occurred, destroying much of the land and crops. Life for the townspeople turned into hell. Everyone was struggling to make ends meet. They reached the city, walked down the street, and he thought he should conduct a census. First, he needed to go to the mayor's estate, Essling, to see how much money they could use for development. He turned around, called Lillian, and asked if she knew where the estate was. She was about to answer this question, but she didn't have time to finish because the guy was riding a horse and loudly said that they should get out of the way. He called the residents unbaptized dogs and said that they should move away from here. Leah pulled Rain away and loudly told the master that he should be careful. They managed to dodge, and she looked at the galloping guy with a displeased look. She let him go and asked, "He is not injured and everything is okay, right?" He thanked her with a calm expression and said that he was fine. He called Lillian and asked if she knew who it was. She said that it was the young master of the Eldrin family. All the casinos in the city belonged to them. He asked with a smile, "How rich are they?" She thought about the answer, and he thought with a smile, that great. Now he understands where to get the money. He said that she should take them to the casino. She said that he shouldn't do that because he would lose all the money there. He walked on and said that she shouldn't worry, he wouldn't be taken by someone like that. She looked at him and wondered how powerful this young gentleman was. After some time, they came to a casino, and the protagonist thought that it was time to develop the kingdom. He went inside and saw a lot of people gambling. He thought with a serious expression that as long as there were establishments, no one would work properly. Leah approached him and asked the gentleman if the casino was surrounded by guards. Was he sure about that? He went ahead and said that they would wait until the big fish bit. An employee approached him and asked if he wanted to play. He said with a smile that he didn't even know that. Is there something simple? He said that he should follow him. He was led to the gaming area, and another employee said that these 2 chips were on the house for him to try his luck. He took it, and with a calm expression, threw it on the place on the table, and the 2 employees looked at each other with smiles. He picked up a glass with 3 dice under it and said loudly that these were 4 sixes, a big one. The second employee said that it was a pity. He almost won. MC with a calm expression called it boring and asked, "Is that all? They should go." He was hungry. The employee stood in his way and said that they should wait. He could leave as soon as he paid the money he owed them. He looked at his hand and asked when he owed them. He said with a smirk that he had lent him these 2 chips and would have to pay back the money for it. He asked, "Isn't this a gift?" He called him sir and said that there was nothing free here. Each chip was worth 100 gold coins. But taking into account the service fee and interest, he owed him 250 coins. If he didn't take the money with him today, he should leave the maid as collateral. He was surprised that Lillian called him a liar and said that he should stop talking nonsense. He shouldn't believe him. Each token is worth 1 silver coin. He became very angry because of this and loudly asked how she even dared to interfere. They should deal with her. At that moment, he hit an employee very hard in the face, and he fell to the ground. He looked at him with a displeased look and asked what he just said. The players who were nearby immediately ran to collect the coins that fell from the table to the floor. He watched this from the side and thought how pathetic they were. The young lord of the Eldrin family came to them and loudly asked who dared to create chaos in his casino. Ryan looked at him and thought that now the bigger fish has bitten. He said with a serious expression that they should beat them so that they know their place. The employees began to carry out his order, and the people asked them to stop. He said loudly with a serious expression that they all had to behave appropriately, otherwise what happened would affect everyone. Lillian looked at what was happening with a frightened look and thought that it was all her fault. If she hadn't brought them here, nothing would have happened. She remembered that he hired a doctor to help her mother and thought that she should pay him back. She took a step forward and with a serious expression said that they had to stop. She would not allow them to deceive their superiors. The employees looked at her and thought, who the hell is this? She shouldn't have come out. Not a single person in the city who got into trouble with Vezerlo remained untouched. The casino owner turned to her with a displeased look and asked, is she talking to him? She said that his casino is a scam and just a fraud. They have ruined so many families. She will not allow them to mock her friends. They are good people. He waved his hand and with a displeased face wished her death. She closed her eyes and waited for that blow to reach her. She opened her eyes and saw the protagonist stop his hand. He used his ability and the system notified that it was Vezerlo Eldrin, 23 years old. Leadership 46 points, Strength 68 points, Loyalty 5 points, Magic 59 points, Intelligence 52 points, Special Attribute, Fury. He read this and thought that he should be careful with him. He looked at him with a serious expression and asked, he has something against him, right? He let go of his hand and said with a smirk that it was not so. He liked his methods. Only the strongest will survive in this world. However, he should know that winners are grinners. He asked with a smile. He dares to go against him? It seems he doesn't know who he's messing with, right? MC with a calm expression said that he doesn't need to. He clapped his hands and at that moment a crowd of guards entered the casino. He said that he had won because his word is law. After some time, many nobles gathered in the hall and said that he hoped that the lord would like his daughter. He heard that he had been able to earn more money lately, all thanks to the city lord. Adrian thought, does he want to take the daughter away from the duke? This is very naive. A girl approached him and said that she proposed a toast to him. He thanked her and thought that no one knew where Vezerlo had fled. If he was here, then they would be able to establish relations with the son of the Grand Duke, and this would give him some freedom of action. You should not trust this stupid lord. Rain entered the hall and a servant loudly announced that his highness from the Edgar family had arrived. 2 men approached him and said that he was the head of the Raven family and brought him gifts. He was the head of the Roaster family and had brought his daughter to him. He said with a small smile that if everyone was gathered, they could begin. At that moment, several servants brought in a board with a diagram, and the people looked at it and wondered, what is this? Does it look like a diagram of a house? He pointed to the drawing and said that it was a drawing of a dam, drawn that afternoon. They would make sure that it would stand for a long time. They did not understand what it was and wondered, is it something for catching fish? He looked to the side and said that he would explain everything now. He called Leah and asked her to bring him a map. When the maps were hung on the board, he said that he had familiarized himself with the geographical location of the city. Every year, because of the river flowing north of the city, there is a severe flood. If they build a dam, they will stop the floods during the rainy seasons and will be able to irrigate crops during the drought. Adrian looked at this in surprise and thought that this was a really great idea. Then life in the city would improve significantly. It seems the Duke's son is no simpleton. One of them asked what this had to do with them. The protagonist said with a slight smile that he needed money. They said that, however, they were poor themselves. Adrian thought he was smart, but too naive. These vampires could only extort money, not give it to anyone. He calmly stood in front of him and said that he had a good way to make money. This afternoon, he raided a casino and got 50,000 gold coins. Does anyone know where else there is a casino in the city? They were surprised by what they heard and thought, did he say a raid on a casino? Does that mean he won't get his share this month? He invested money there, after all. However, all the casinos in the city are managed by Mr. Adrian. It seems the young gentleman has gotten himself into trouble. Adrian thought he was a stupid guy. If he stood aside and kept silent, he wouldn't touch him. However, it was he who started this war. He approached him and told the gentleman that his actions violated the laws of the nation. The rest of the people said that he couldn't violate this because it was wrong. The casino was a legal business. He had no right to raid it just because he wanted to. That wasn't right. Adrian looked at him and thought that this guy was too naive. He shouldn't have expected anything from him. He calmly said that they pretended to be poor when he asked them to invest in his project. However, now, this is how they were talking. He would give them one last chance. Either they had to surrender on their own, or he would take over. The man asked if the Duke found out about his deeds. He wouldn't let it go, right? People supported him, but MC smiled and said that it was wonderful that they were talking about laws. He turned to the knights with a serious expression and said that they should detain them all. 2 tied men were brought into the hall and sat on the floor. Adrian was a little worried when he saw this and wondered where these 2 were from. They were always near Vezerlo, right? He had a hunch about this, and he asked Master Adrian if he recognized these people. He asked that he had never seen them before, but why was he asking? He said with a calm expression that nothing special, that they tried to kill him this afternoon. Earlier, they had spoken of a power that would allow them to block out the sky, and that someone had been covering them the whole time. Adrian began to worry about this, and he said that they should untie them so that they could see if the other guests recognized these faces. People became worried when they saw them and wondered, these are Veserlo's followers, right? The Lord said that they tried to kill him. Luck is clearly not on the Lord's side. The head of the Adrian family thought that if these 2 were allowed to speak out, the entire family would be destroyed. He grabbed a knife and loudly asked, how dare they attack the son of the Grand Duke? They must pay for this with their lives. He struck several strong and swift blows and killed these 2 people. He said that he asks to be forgiven. He succumbed to emotion and asks to punish him if he deems it necessary. Rain patted him on the shoulder and said that he has a very strong sense of justice. He is a true Adrian. Not everyone would act like this. He said that he was so kind to him. He only did what was right. He turned around with a grin and said that then they should bring the main culprit here. They would see if there were any other people present capable of showing such courage. They brought Vezerlo, who loudly insulted the knights, demanded to be untied, and said that his father was a great nobleman and did not ask them for this. He would kill them all. His father looked at him with a surprised expression and thought, so they captured him? His son, with a displeased look, insulted him and asked how he dared to kill his servants. He would free himself and kill him, but first he would torture him. He himself would beg for a quick death. He listened to this with a grin and asked, did he want not only to kill, but also to torture? He agreed with a self-confident smile and said that no one was his equal in this city. He could consider himself already dead. He would not survive. The protagonist, with a joyful look, said that he had never seen someone so brave. He called Lord Adrian and asked, doesn't he think so? He called his father, laughed and said that his days were numbered. He didn't even know who was standing in front of him. He didn't have time to finish because his father said loudly that he should shut his mouth and kneel before him. He was confused by this and was about to ask something, but he walked up to him and made him kneel. He turned around, called the Lord, and said that his son was still young and stupid, and he was asking to spare him. He was ready to agree to any conditions. Veserlo, with a worried look, remembered how his father said that the Grand Duke's son would arrive tomorrow at dawn. They should be careful with him. He raised his head with a frightened look and asked, so he is the Grand Duke's son? He looked at him with a serious expression and asked where he thought he got so many guards from. He bowed, hitting his head on the floor, and said that he was asking him to have mercy. It was his fault. He made a mistake. Adrian, looking worried, told the Lord that he begged him to have mercy on behalf of his family. He looked at them with a calm expression and said that they should give him everything they had illegally obtained over the years, and he would spare them. He thanked him for this and thought that he was able to save himself. He looked at the mayor and thought that he should inform him about this man. He called him and said that he had an important thing to tell him. The city lord was collaborating with outside forces, wanting to overthrow the Grand Duke. The people were surprised by this, looked at him and thought, does he want to overthrow the Duke? He was about to say something else, but the MC loudly insulted them and said that he was going to let them go, but they continued to slander others, excusing themselves. They should execute them immediately. The mayor, with a joyful smile, thought that everything was correct. He was not only stupid, but also impulsive. He bowed to him and said that they appreciated his actions. He swears he is completely loyal to him and the Grand Duke. He wouldn't even think of rebellion. He looked at him with a smile and said that he believed he wouldn't betray him. The system reported that this was Elderic Calgar, 38 years old. Leadership, 35 points. Strength, 48 points. Trust, 15 points. Magic, 66 points. Strategy, 68 points. Special attribute, greed. Sometime later, he sat in the study and thought that these nobles had earned more than 100,000 gold coins. This is the approximate amount of taxes in Aisling for 2 years. Leah called him and said that she had brought him black tea. He took the cup of tea and asked if she knew how well fed these nobles were. She asked what he was going to do about what Adrian had said. If the city lord was really planning a rebellion, he would be in danger. Rain told her to calm down, because he understood her concerns, but there was no need to rush. He's absolutely certain that Elderic is plotting a rebellion, but he just can't show all his cards right now. She looked at him and asked why he thought that. He stretched and said it was because he hadn't found out who was working for him in Aisling. He was vulnerable as long as his enemies were in the shadows. If he acted rashly, chaos would ensue. It was better for him to think he was just a naive and ignorant rich guy until he hit rock bottom. After a while, the old man, with an indignant expression, said that couldn't be true. That was just nonsense. Elderic told Guildmaster Malcolm that he should calm down. The young master was young and in a hurry to prove his worth to the Grand Duke. He said he didn't have to take his side. Even the Grand Duke showed them, wizards, respect when he spoke to them. He was looking at the Essling Water Conservation Project and thought that he was just wondering how to bribe the Wizards Guild. He brought this on himself. Malcolm started to leave and said that this was such impudence. He would talk to him. He was surprised by this, called him, and said that he should wait. He thought with a sly grin that the young master had insulted the Magic Guild. From now on, he would be alone in Essling. Sometime later, the protagonist was sitting in his office, drawing a plan, and thought that he needed to go back to the time when he only made engineering drawings and nothing more. Leah came to him and said with a smile that the master of the Wizards Guild wanted to meet him. He did not recognize this man and wondered who he was. They met and Malcolm asked why he was insulting the Magic Guild like that. He asked with a puzzled look, what was he talking about? When did he insult the Wizards Guild? He showed a document that stated that the project does not accept proposals from individuals such as wizards, the physically disabled, or the elderly. He said with a displeased look that he should stop feigning ignorance. He sent an acceptance letter. He read it with a calm look and said that he was building a dam. How is this an insult to the Wizards Guild? He said loudly that his recruitment letter clearly stated that he does not accept proposals from wizards. Obviously, this was a provocation towards the Wizards Guild. He felt embarrassed by this and thought, is this world that bad? Do even wizards do hard physical work here? Malcolm called out to him loudly and said that if he could not give him a comprehensive explanation, every wizard from the guild would refuse to work for him. MC looked at him and thought that the system should show him his statistics. A system window appeared in front of him, showing that he was 57 years old. Leadership, 78 points. Strength, 48 points. Magic and loyalty, 82 points. Strategy, 68 points. His special attribute is chasing ranks and being straightforward. He read this and thought that his loyalty wasn't low. It seemed someone had irritated him. He called him by name and said there was a misunderstanding. He didn't mean to disrespect the Wizards Guild. There were 3 reasons why he wasn't hiring wizards this time. First, mana was limited every day, and they might not make the deadline. Second, hiring a wizard was too expensive. For the same price, he could hire a dozen strong workers. Third, many wizards lived in comfort as members of the guild, while the citizens had no cash reserves. As the ruler of this land, he must pay them compensation. Malcolm said with a smile that, with all due respect, magic is the rule in this world. Those without magical talent deserve to stand below wizards. Rain said calmly that he was right, but he didn't like it. Starting with Aisling, he was going to make everyone understand that citizens are no different from wizards. There are no superiors or inferiors. He said with a serious expression that he suggested he take his words back if he didn't want to make them his enemies. He asked him to watch his tone. Leah held a dagger to his throat, and he said that otherwise his maid would resort to insulting the nobility by slitting his throat. He became worried about this, called him, and asked what kind of nonsense this was. He said with a cold grin that he hadn't spoken nonsense. Such a law existed. If he doesn't believe him, he'll have to force her to kill him and they'll see what the court's decision will be. What does he think about this? He said with a frightened look that he asks to accept his apology and spare his life. The protagonist thought that even in such a situation, his loyalty to him has not fallen. He had no idea that he was being used. He's such a simpleton. He called her by name and said that she should let him go. The system notified that he had completed the beginner's quest. Use scanning abilities on people 10 times. A reward for completing the beginner's quest is available. A new quest is available. Obtain 5 heroes with high stats. New features are now available. He must remember to look at it. He looked at it and thought that he had finally completed the system quest. He needed to see what rewards he received for it. After that, Malcolm left the building, and Elderic asked the guild master how everything went. He said that not only had the master not listened to him, but he had also thrown him out the door. He was embarrassed by this and said that he had an idea. This would not only change the master's thinking, but also make him more respectful towards him. He leaned towards him with a smile and said that when these commoners refused to work for the master, he would have no choice but to come to him. Malcolm asked why people shouldn't work for the young master if he made such a good offer. He said with a smirk that the young master would definitely be disappointed in these commoners if they all just remained lazy. He was surprised by this and said that this couldn't be true. He was simply disappointed that he refused to hire wizards. Why would he arrange this sabotage around him? He said with a smirk that he could be sure that these commoners were a bunch of incompetent people. Otherwise, why were they starving? Don't they know how to farm or hunt? Why would these useless people seriously help the young master build a dam? He thought about it and said that then it seemed they could try to carry out his idea. After some time, people saw the notice on the board and asked loudly what it was about. He heard that the new ruler was hiring people to build something. That's right. He heard that the offer was excellent. 3 meals a day and a salary of 10 copper coins. Is the new ruler really that good? This is definitely a trap. These nobles have deceived them many times already. He won't go, otherwise he will definitely die before he knows about it. Lillian stood in the crowd of these people and said loudly that they could not even think of defamating his lordship. He told her everything personally. He's going to try to make everyone's life better. They started laughing because of it and asked what a little girl like her knows. She has feelings for this charming guy, right? She greeted him with a serious expression and said that she and her father would be participating in the dam project. The employee accepting applicants said that her father would be accepted, but she was rejected. She was embarrassed by this and said that she was also strong enough. He said that she was not of the right age. The young master said that they do not hire anyone under 18. If they find her behind his back, and the master finds out about it, he will definitely punish them. He can participate in the construction of the dam. 8 hours a day, with 3 meals provided. A salary of 10 copper coins will be paid at the end of the day daily. If he has no questions, he should sign here and come to the construction site tomorrow. Lillian turned to her father with a serious expression and said that he must work hard and not get distracted at all. He patted her head and said that she need not worry. He will try. He will not disappoint the young master. He hugged her and said that she should stay at home and take care of her mother. She can't work in the field with her illness. The employee stood up and said that they should go back. He turned to him and asked what's the matter. He came closer and asked, he just said that his wife is sick, right? He agreed and said that she can't work at all. He asked with a small smile, did anyone ask her to work? The young gentleman stated that those working on the dam who have sick relatives can accommodate them in their premises. He must understand that this is housing for the duration of the work on the construction of the dam. As soon as the work is finished, they can return to their own home. He knelt down, with tears in his eyes, thanked him several times. The soldier approached him, extended his hand, and said that he should get up. He would send someone to take him and his daughter to the housing, and they can choose anyone they like. The rest of the people were surprised by this and asked, is that true? They will sign up right now. They can't miss this chance. The staff said that they should all line up and not push. At the same time, MC saw a system window that notified him that he had received the lithium iron phosphate battery blueprint from the rookie reward. He was indignant about this and wondered what he was supposed to do with it without an electric generator. Did it want him to create batteries and get an electric shock? The system notified him that he should ascend and obtain 5 characters with high stats. He thought, 5 characters, and even with high stats. Where in the world would he find such people? The system notified that Leah Lockerbie, 21 years old, leadership and magic 95 points, strength 97 points, loyalty 100 points, strategy 91 points, special attribute fearless divine thunder. He thought that earlier he was thinking about training her. Then he looked at her statistics and found out that she had no more room to grow. It seems he needs to go to the city again to scout for talent. She came to his office, knocked on the door, and told the young master that Lillian wanted to see him. He allowed her to enter. They went inside and she said that something strange was happening at the construction site. Everyone was refusing to work. After some time, she came to the construction site, called Dad, and asked why he was slacking off again. He called her by name and said that honestly, he was not slacking off. He felt tired from the moment he got out of bed. No one here has energy. She said with a displeased expression that his lordship had made such a good offer. Why are they still being lazy? The workers said that they were trying, but they felt like this since early morning. Maybe they had worked too long, and that's why they were now suffering from this instant exhaustion from work. They would definitely feel better if they rested for one day. Tomorrow is not going anywhere. She said with a displeased look that he should stop talking such nonsense, that they were all just lazy. Rain approached them and said that such a disease didn't exist. Lillian called him and said that they should listen to him. He should order them not to slack off and work harder. The system notified that her father was Rock Eldred, 39 years old, leadership and magic 35 points, strength 37 points, loyalty 90 points, strategy 31 points. Status? Anomaly curse. This caught his attention. He called Lillian and said that they weren't sick, but cursed. The protagonist used the study and thought that he was going to use it when the construction of the dam began. Looks like it needs to be tested now. The system said that with the study, the owner can analyze the characteristics of rocks, strata, formations, minerals, hydrology, and landforms in a certain area. He thought, the system, it should analyze the hydrological state in this area. The system reported, analysis of the hydrological state within a radius of 10 kilometers. Please, he must wait. He thought, there is no oil or metals down there, pity. Wait, what is this? Then he said, Mister, can he dig here some more? He thinks there is something down there. He replied that he understood. Mr. Ryan, it's okay, although they are all tired. After some time, they dug up a small crystal, and he asked, what is it? Did they dig up something they shouldn't? Leah, looking at the protagonist, thought, young Mr. Ryan is a magical genius. The magic coming from it is so weak that even she won't feel it. So how could he? After that, the protagonist placed his hands on his chest and told them to dig up the crystals and put them in a box. They answered, yes, sir. After that, he turned to Leah and asked what people usually do when they are cursed. She answered, go to the church and pray to remove it, or look for high-level wizards from the Wizards Guild. He asked, the Wizards Guild, she said. After that, he turned to Lillian and told her to follow him and bring her father. They will find the priest. She asked in surprise, Sir Rain, is her father really cursed? He replied that he was completely certain. Whoever did this will not get away with it. After some time, they approached the church servant. Ayuria, closing her eyes, smiled and said, "Welcome, Sir Rain." The protagonist looked at her and thought that since he was asking her to cure someone, he should make sure of her loyalty. After that, he ordered the system to study this. A system window appeared in front of him and said, "Analyzing. Ayuria. Visually 24 years old, approximately 257 Elven years. Leadership 80, Strength 62, Strategy 87, Loyalty 95, Magic 95, Race, Elf." He thought in surprise, "An elf? She's not even human?" Then Ayuria said, "She is Saint Ayuria from the church. How can she help him?" He pointed at Lillian's father and said that there was a suspicion that this gentleman was cursed. "Can she do anything about it?" He thought that she has high loyalty. First, he will take a closer look at her. In response, she said, "Please, they must let her study him first." The next second, she opened her eyes. A bright light burst out from there. Then she said, "He's right, Lord Rain, he really is cursed." He asked if she could lift the curse. She placed her hand on her chest, concentrated energy in her other hand, and sent a brightly glowing ball into the man's body. He joyfully shouted, "Lord Rain, he feels like a different person. Now he will get back to work. He will finish all the work he was supposed to do today, and even more." The protagonist looked at him and said, "There's no need to rush. They won't be too late if they sort this out first." "Saint Ayuria, they found this in the construction area. Does she know what it could be?" He held out the crystal to her. She took it in her hand and said, "This is a dark crystal, the most accessible crystal. There's a huge amount of magic inside it, enough for the curse to take effect. Although this is more of a joke than a curse, whoever casts the curse is capable of killing everyone with that amount of magic. But all he did was make people feel tired." The protagonist held out his hand and asked if it was very easy to produce these crystals. She raised her index finger and replied that it wouldn't be difficult for a high-level wizard to make them daily and hide construction sites there. He asked if she knew about his project. She smiled and said, "Mr. Rhine, the project will greatly benefit the residents. Why wouldn't she know about it? Thanks to the project, many people have been hired, and the pressure on the church has been significantly reduced." He thought, perhaps he should teach this old man a lesson. After that, he asked if she could remove the curse from the entire construction area. She replied that it would be difficult. Today, he was lucky to have found the crystals, but it won't always be that way. Besides, if all he did was dig for crystals, then who would be busy with the main construction? He folded his arms and thought, I guess he'll still need to contact Malcolm about this. That's easy. After this, the saint added, "Mr. Ryan, she knows someone who can solve his problems, although she's a bit strange. Will he try?" After some time, they approached the building. MC, looking at the business card, thought, so this is the house of Lady Selena, the former president of the Wizards Guild. He knocked on the door and thought, one way or another, he would persuade her to help him. The next second, Leah, grabbing his hand, shouted, "Mr. Ryan, be careful." At that moment, a powerful explosion occurred on the second floor of the building. The protagonist thought in surprise, "An explosion? What's going on? What if?" At that moment, Selena became indignant. Why didn't it work again? She won't put up with this. She won't stop until she does everything right, even if she has to raise the entire city of Aisling to the ground. After that, she declared that she refuses. Holding a book in her hands, she turned slightly and said that she was busy developing a new magical device. She doesn't have time for them. MC asked, "A magical device? A magic wand or something?" She magically brought the donut to her mouth and, taking a small bite, told him not to irritate her with his misunderstanding. Then Leah said, "Lady Selena, she must watch her tone when she speaks to young Master Ryan." She adjusted a strand of hair and, frowning, said, "Damn girl, she has great magic." She concentrated electrical energy around herself and added, "She must remain an assistant. Once she's done, she will help her little master." "How about her?" she replied. "Lady Selena, if she doesn't know anything about politeness, she will have to teach her." Their gazes met, and then the protagonist said, "She should calm down, Leah. They are here to ask for help, not to cause trouble." Then he looked at the table and asked, "Lady Selena, is everything on the table made by her? Does she create magical items?" She said at least he acknowledged it. All to no avail, unfortunately. She concentrated energy in her hand and said that she was trying to create a device that would store her powerful electrical magic. MC thought in surprise. "Store electrical magic?" Then he said, "She said a magical device for storing electrical magic?" She replied, "Well, yes, and when nothing works an explosion occurs, like before. Now they should go. She needs to rest for a while before returning to research." After that, the protagonist said, if he tells her he can create a device to store electricity, will she help them deal with the Wizards Guild? She came closer and, pointing her finger at him, said, "Young master." She said she doesn't have time for nonsense. He replied that he is serious. If he helps her create a device to store electricity, will she help resolve the problems with the Wizards Guild in return? She replied, "Okay." She put her hand to her head, concentrating her energy around herself, and said that if he created the magical device she needed, she would not only deal with that idiot Malcolm, but also force the Wizards Guild to obey him. But if he failed, he would blame himself. Sometime later, they stood near the device. The protagonist, reading the diagram of the lithium iron phosphate battery, thought that he'd just recently been wondering where to find electricity. He thought that these wizards were replacing human electrical generators until hydraulic generators were built. Then he pointed to the device and said that it was built according to her instructions. She warned him, "These stones can't store magic. It will explode if she uses even weak magic." The protagonist extended a wire to her and told her to be sure. This battery has a capacity of about 185 watts per kilogram. She should show how much she can create, while she must release the electricity. He'll see if she's as powerful as she claims. After that, she took the wire in her hand and began releasing her electrical energy. The energy began to flow through the wire directly into the device. Selena exclaimed in surprise, "No way, it didn't explode?" The protagonist smiled and asked, "Is that all, Lady Selena? That's not even half of what the battery can store." She screamed indignantly, "You brat." She'll wipe that smile off his face. He knows nothing about magic. After a while, she collapsed exhausted to the ground, holding the wire in her hand. She thought, could this thing really store her magic? Then MC crouched down next to the battery and looked at the system window, thinking, wow, this is enough to charge an electric car for over 3,000 kilometers. The battery charge was 87%. He thought, she could fill this to 87% by herself. Now this is a convenient human battery. He pulled the two wires together and thought, dear battery packs of the Magician's Guild, it's time to show off your talents. The next second, Selena said, young master, how is he able to use energy too? He replied, Lady Selena, not only can he use electrical magic, he can make it so that everyone in Aisling can use it. She was surprised. What nonsense, young master. How can someone comprehend magic so easily? He replied, Lady Selena, he has magical devices much more powerful than this battery. If she wants to help him, he will show her a world where everyone can use magic. How about that? He extended his hand toward her. She said, a world where everyone can use magic. After a while, Malcolm sat in a chair, stroking his beard and thinking he was sure Lord Rain was about to come begging him for help. But at that moment, Selena walked in and said they hadn't seen each other in a long time. He cried out in fear, President Selena, why is she here? She came closer and grinning said, he's so brave. He dared to stand in the way of a young lord from a ducal family? Is he trying to start a rebellion? He asked, perplexed. President Selena, what is she talking about? He would never have dared to think of something so dangerous. She grabbed him by the clothes and shouted at him to spit it out. What kind of dirty tricks was he playing on the young lord's construction site? He knew she was a bit hot-tempered, right? He replied that he would. President, please, she must spare him. He gathered all the mages from the association and told them that Lord Rain despised them, which infuriated them. Then he had them create curse crystals using teleportation magic and place them in the ground in Lord Rain's construction area. This would exhaust the common workers. Then Lord Rain would think they were lazy and useless. Then Lord Rain would apologize to him and agree to work together with the Wizards Guild. With tears in his eyes, he added, that's it, President. He swears he had no other intentions. She shouted, idiot. He didn't even realize he was being used, right? He was surprised. President, who was using him? She pointed to the side and said, enough. He must recall these troublesome mages immediately. He ran in that direction and said he understood. Then she took out the device and, seeing the protagonist, said, young master, she sorted out the problem with the Wizards Guild. He thanked her, and then she asked if he wanted her to deal with Eldrin. She could make him disappear without a trace. He replied, no need. He's no threat. In fact, he needed him to lure out the bigger fish. She replied, okay, then she's leaving, since she's already taken care of everything. By the way, when can they start working on that new project he mentioned? He should definitely call her when he starts. He replied that he understood. First, she needs to have the wizards from the guild fill those batteries. She replied, okay. Meanwhile, Elderic approached Eldrin and said, sir, it seems the boy has taken control of the Wizards Guild. What should they do now? He sat in his chair, folded his arms and legs, and told him to take his time. Aside from that old hag Selena, they didn't need to worry about the Wizards Guild in the town of Aisling. He should forget about those petty wizards. He should worry about that mysterious dam project. If it works as the new lord plans, it will revitalize the people of Aisling. They can't let that happen. In response, he clenched his fist and said that he needn't worry about the dam, sir. He had already set a trap for the young lord. He had already secretly pressured the nobles responsible for the grain supply to raise prices according to his wishes. Eldrin asked if he was sure these nobles would be on his side. He, holding up a coin in his hand, replied that the young lord had forced them to fork out their money at the banquet, but he could secretly help them win it back. They might betray him, but never their own gain. After that, he flipped a coin and added, this young master doesn't have enough money to finish this dam project. With that, the coin fell on the table. Meanwhile, the merchant kicked Lillian and shouted, if she can't afford it, she should get out of here. She fell to the ground and was indignant. How can he jack up prices like this? Yesterday, grain was 1 gold coin for 2 sacks. Today for 1 sack? In response, he shouted, stop whining. It's his grain, and he will sell it for whatever price he wants. If she can't pay, she should get out. She remembered telling the protagonist to leave the purchase of the grain to them. They will buy it at the lowest price and collect the money for him. Then he left it to her. She shouted, greedy swindlers. Aren't they afraid that Brother Ryan will deal with them? The merchant smirked and said that they were just honest sellers. What could he do with them? This is a golden opportunity, and they will take everything from it. After that, he kicked her again. He laughed and shouted, if she is a beggar, she should simply get lost from here. After some time, Ayuria said indignantly, these people have gone beyond the pale. She looked at the sacks of grain and thought, in just 3 days, the price of grain has tripled. Illyria, this grain is not enough for their people to survive the winter. First, she must take these supplies. She will deal with the rest herself. She handed her a bag of money and told her to take all this money with her and make sure she pays the usual price. She asked in surprise. This is too much money, isn't it? Usually, bribing these guards wouldn't cost even a third of this. She put her hand to her head and told her to do as she said. She replied that she understood. After that, she wanted to put the bag in her bag, but it was abruptly snatched from her hand. Leah was standing nearby. Ayuria asked in surprise. A servant? The protagonist came closer and asked. A saint. He was holding a bag of money and asked if she was interested in a deal. She wondered what deal young Master Rain was talking about. He scratched his neck and said, "No need to talk so tensely about business, Miss Elf." She wondered what nonsense he was talking about. Young Master Rhine, this was the human capital. There couldn't be any elves here. He told her not to defend herself. He knew they were elves and held no animosity towards them. With these words, he threw the bag of money into the elf's hands, and she asked what deal the young master wanted to make with them. He answered, "Food supplies." She said, "Young Master Rain, he must forgive her bluntness, but it might be beyond his capabilities." He asked thoughtfully, "Why is she saying that?" Food in Esling is controlled by the 4 main noble families. These 4 families have firmly established themselves in the city for over a century, and they tightly control grain prices in the city. At the banquet a few days ago, he frightened some people with his iron tactics, but in the city, that's just a small thing. He folded his arms and asked, "Does she know Esling that well?" She replied that she had lived here for 120 years, so yes, she knew it very well. If the young master hadn't stood up to the Eldrin family at the banquet, there might still be a meeting room somewhere. But now she's afraid. Due to the war and natural disasters, food is very scarce this year. If grain prices were more stable, her people might survive the winter. But now, the protagonist said, "Miss Elf, he promises that in 2 weeks, grain prices in the city will be even lower than they were before the takeoff." After a while, Augustus Klein, the head of the Klein family, laughed and thanked the Lord Mayor for his support. Sitting at the table, he said, "The 4 leading families have amassed a huge fortune this time." Roland, sitting nearby, said that they should thank Lord Augustus for taking them into business. 2 more merchants agreed. "That's right. Thanks to Lord Augustus." "Yes, thanks to Lord Augustus." Then Augustus raised his glass and proposed a toast to the prosperity of their business. After that, they clinked glasses, and a subordinate approached them and said, "Sir, young Master Rhine has sent an invitation to a banquet for them and 3 other lords." Roland was surprised. What? A banquet with the young master? He thought, is he going to come for them? Then he asked, "Lord Augustus, what should they do?" "They want to make money, not die." He smiled and replied that they should not worry. The Lord Mayor assured him that the increase in grain prices was completely legal and condemned. As long as they don't provoke young Master Rain, nothing will happen. He then slammed his fist on the table and added, "Besides, he won't be able to do anything to him if the 4 of them band together. The price of grain is set by them, the merchants. If even the emperor doesn't have the authority to interfere, what can we say about the duke's youngest son?" Then Roland shouted, "That's right. He's absolutely right." Another merchant shouted, "If they take advantage of this opportunity, their families won't face poverty for hundreds of years." Then Augustus rose to his feet and said, "Today they're selling grain for 2 gold coins a sack. If young Master Rain pushes too hard, they'll lower the price to 5 copper coins to appease him. If anyone dares to quit, he won't let it go. He can be sure they'll be with him to the end." "They'll work with him, my lord," he replied. "Very well. Now they need to change into something more appropriate and go to young Master Rhine's banquet." Roland wondered, "Change?" After a while, Leah placed her hand on the protagonist's shoulder and said, "Young Master." A subordinate approached them and said, "Young Master Rain, Lord Augustus has arrived with the others." The protagonist smiled and told him to invite them in and tell the kitchen to serve food. He replied that he understood. After this, the merchants entered the room. Augustus placed his hand on his chest and said that they welcomed him. "Young Master Rain." The protagonist, looking at them, thought, "Are they trying to act poor right in front of him? They have a lot to learn." Then he said, "Are they the nobles who control the grain reserves in Esling? So why do they look so disheveled?" He replied, "They recently heard about his project, which is very beneficial to the people. They would like to participate too." Roland added, "Under Lord Augustus's leadership, they not only left large sums of money to support the project, but also sold the grain from their barns to the townspeople at the lowest possible price." Leah frowned and thought, "These scoundrels have no conscience. They are openly trying to deceive the young master." After that, MC said that he was frankly touched by their understanding and support of his efforts. He put his hand to his face and added, he was grateful for their help. He invited them here to discuss the grain matter. Augustus said, "Young master, they understand that he is short of funds lately, but 2 gold coins per sack is a loss for them." Roland added, "Correct. Absolutely, young master." The protagonist smiled and said that they misunderstood. He meant, can they raise the price of grain to 4 gold coins per sack starting tomorrow? Augustus was surprised. "What? 4 gold coins per sack? Raise the price?" The protagonist held up 3 fingers and answered, "Exactly, 4 gold coins per sack, and he will take 30% of the amount. How about them?" He replied, "Young Master Rain, he's an elderly man. His hearing isn't what it used to be." He said they should raise the price of grain to 4 gold coins per sack. The protagonist remarked that he shouldn't forget that he gets 30%. Augustus smiled and thought, initially he thought young Master Rain was an inexperienced child, but it seems he has as much commercial cunning as the rest of them. Since young Master is so understanding, This road will be smooth sailing for them. If he'd known young master was so businesslike, he would have visited him much sooner. But without official orders, they can't raise the price. Otherwise, if a rebellion breaks out, they'll be the ones to suffer. After that, he thanked him for understanding them, lowly servants. When did he plan to issue the decree? The protagonist took the document from Leah's hands and said that it had already been drawn up. The family seal had been affixed, and they would take it out after dinner. But they must let him make it clear. If anyone dares to disobey him from tomorrow, the fate of the Eldrin family will serve as a warning. Do they agree? Roland said that he could rest assured they would repay him for his kindness. After a while, Roland asked, Mr. Augustus, inform the Lord Mayor about this? Increasing the price of grain instead of decreasing is quite unusual. After that, Augustus smashed his glass on the floor and shouted, Fool, have they lost their minds? The more people know about a good thing, the less money they make from it. This little bastard doesn't have much power. He thinks he's using the four of them to draw them into his lucrative plan. They must let it be said. The plan to increase the price of grain remains between the four of them. Luck is entirely on their side. Anyone who doesn't profit from this crisis is simply a fool who deserves to fail. Roland added, Mr. Augustus, he simply never saw such a wonderful opportunity in his life. So he felt uneasy, a little nervous, and couldn't help it. Then he bowed and said that from now on, he would follow him. Together, through thick and thin, he laughed and said, Excellent. From now on, the four of them stick together. We need to act quickly before the decree is issued. They'll take all the grain from those small-time foreign traders. This time, luck is paying out more than they could have dreamed of. After a while, Ayuria cried out indignantly, He's a traitor. He promised to lower the price of grain. Why did he collude with those traders? Today, she'll show him that you can't mess around with an elf. Lillian approached her and said worriedly, Holy sister, she shouldn't be nervous. Rain promised the price of grain would go down. She exclaimed indignantly, He's gotten involved with those dishonest traders. How could the price drop? She asked him to trust Rain. She believed he must have a plan. Then she asked, Young Master Rain, is he really going to raise the price of grain? He replied that she shouldn't worry. The price won't be this high forever. In less than half a month, the grain market will completely collapse. She uttered this. True in experience, young master. He has no idea how cruel the world can be. She'd lived for nearly 200 years and never seen the price of grain fall after its peak. In response, he placed his hand on the table and said, If he were to simply hold a knife to their throats, how much would the price of grain drop? 1 gold coin? Or perhaps 10? She replied, Even so, it can't go up to 4 gold coins per sack. When the price was 2 gold coins, at least some families could band together to buy a sack and survive. If the price rises to 4 gold coins, they simply won't be able to afford it. They will be doomed to die. The protagonist lowered his gaze and said, Holy, at 2 gold coins they starve to death. At 4, they still starve to death. So for the average citizen in Esling, there's no difference between 2 and 4 gold coins. They starve either way, only in one case, a little longer. She shouted indignantly. The MC looked at the documents in his hands and said that his goal wasn't to stagnate the lying merchants, to lower the price by a few coppers. It was pointless. He was going to make these lying merchants lose everything, their homes, their families, their entire livelihoods. 7 days later, the protagonist pointed to the board and said, During charging, some lithium ions separate from the lithium iron phosphate. They travel through the electrolyte to the negative electrode and burn in the carbon material there. At the same time, electrons are separated from the positive electrode and pass through the external circuit to the negative electrode, maintaining chemical balance. During the exchange, lithium ions leave the negative electrode, pass through the electrolyte, and reach the positive electrode. At the same time, electrons are separated from the negative electrode and reach the positive electrode through an external circuit, releasing energy. Selena looked at him and said, So that's how it works. Such a complicated, magical system. Then he declared, Lesson is over for today. Leah approached them, holding a teapot, and said, Young Master Rain, Ayuria is here again. He asked if she had nothing better to do. Selena said it was because he raised the price of grain. The price of grain in the city had skyrocketed to almost 7 gold pieces per sack. Before he could respond, Ayuria ran up to them and shouted indignantly, Young Master Rain, he said he'd lower the price of grain. Right now, even the lesser nobles in the city can't afford grain, let alone the common people. Does he know how much a sack of grain costs? The protagonist, taking a cup of tea in his hand, asked, Leah, how many days have it been since they started raising the price? She replied, It's been 7 days, young Master Rain. He said, In that case, it's time to send the lying merchants on their way. She was indignant. Young Master Rain, he must stop uttering these cryptic phrases. Please, he must explain everything to her right now. Otherwise, her elf clan will sever all ties with him. He replied, the reason he didn't tell her anything was to make sure she wouldn't reveal all this to the nobles. Now, she must finally let him tell her the truth. He placed the cup on the table and said, the news about the price of grain going up to 4 gold coins a sack. What do you think is most lacking in Aisling right now? She replied that they had no shortages. He said, merchants selling grain. She looked at him in surprise. She wondered, surprised, really? MC smiled and asked, did she finally understand? That's right, there's no shortage of food in the city, and the merchants are selling it. Greed is the easiest human quality to control. no one can give up their desires. The price of grain in the city rose to 4 gold coins per sack. This news reached the merchants from nearby cities, who immediately rushed to collect the grain and bring it to Essling. Out-of-town merchants had brought a huge amount of grain. It will definitely be bought at the highest price by these 4 fools, which will make the merchants' appetites grow. Now Essling can be called the city with the largest amount of grain in the entire empire. All the merchants lose their minds when they see a 10,000% profit. They only have 2 words on their minds: get rich. He smiled and said that today, 4 noble families in Essling will no longer exist. He handed the leaflets to Leah and told her to post this news all over the city. She should tell them that the holy maiden Ayuria is selling the church's grain reserves because she is unhappy with the methods of Lord Rain. The price is 1 gold coin per sack. Everyone must know about this. She agreed. Then Ayuria put her hand to her chest and told him to wait, Lord Rain. Why was he giving her such a good reputation? He replied, because he has no grain. How will he sell it? She replied in surprise. She doesn't have much grain either. He doesn't want her to sell all the grain her people will need for the winter, does he? Lord Rain, she tells him, definitely not. Her elven tribe needs this grain to survive the winter. Then Selena, covering her mouth with her hand, smiled and said, Ayuria, she is truly naive. If she were in her place, she would listen to the young ruler and sell the grain immediately. Every second of delay means losing money. She placed her hands on her waist and said, they, the elves, are not interested in money. They only need grain. The protagonist said, Holy Virgin, she must do as he said, and the grain will only increase. She must believe him. Then he turned and said, Lady Selena, he is counting on her and the Mages Guild to seal the city. She replied that he need not worry. They will not allow a single rat to escape the city. Then he held out his hand and said, excellent. Now it's time to make those greedy merchants pay up. After a while, the protagonist looked at the leaflet and asked, is something wrong? Leah replied, Lord Rain, she's afraid something won't go according to plan. What if these merchants hold out for a few days and all the Ayuria grain is sold? He replied, Leah, there are 2 kinds of schemes. The first is a secret plot. The second is an open plan. She can circumvent a secret plot, but she can't escape when the plans are open. These out-of-town merchants are blinded by greed and risk everything for it. They will fight to become rich instantly. Now that they know the price has dropped, they will panic and sell, because delay means death. After a while, a subordinate ran up to Augustus and shouted, Lord Augustus, something terrible has happened. The church has announced that they will sell spare grain to help the people, for only 1 gold piece per sack. Lord Augustus, what should they do? Roland said, things are bad. They've forgotten about the church. Another merchant added, what should they do? They bought their grain for 2 gold pieces per sack. His partner added, they mustn't panic. How much grain can one church have? Will it be enough for the city for several days? Then Augustus said, they must send people to the church and buy as much as they can. He answered, yes. After a while, a huge line formed outside the church. The residents shouting, he wants 5 sacks of grain. He also wants 5. And he wants 10. Ayuria stood in front of them, putting her hand to her chest and told them not to push. There's enough grain for everyone. The Pope sent 10,000 sacks of grain because he knows the people are suffering. A man shouted, you need to buy it quickly. It'll run out soon. A guy next to him shouted, that's right. At that moment, Ayuria asked them not to push. They must get in line. The others shouted, she must sell it quickly. The next second, a soldier approached them and said, they must calm down. He approached Ayuria and said, Holy Virgin, this is the grain sent by the Pope. This is the first shipment. Starting tomorrow, even more grain will arrive in the city. She smiled and said, okay. She thought, Lord Rain, please, he mustn't overfill the cup. She couldn't hold back. What should she say? And what if the Pope finds out? After that, the residents, looking at several more carts of grain, joyfully shouted, they have grain. At that moment, one of the merchants thought, it's the end. Business is ruined. The church has ruined everything. He bought it for 60 silver coins, and transportation cost about 10. If you add up his expenses for several days, it comes to 95 silver coins. He can get another 10 silver coins. He must sell it all immediately. We can't wait any longer. Waiting will only lead to expenses. Then he ran forward and shouted that he was selling grain, fresh grain, 95 silver coins per sack. 95 silver coins. A line formed around him, the villagers shouting, they want it, they have to give it to him. He has to give 10 sacks. At that moment, another merchant looked at him and thought, idiot. He dares to joke about him. If they fail, then everyone fails. Then he shouted that he was selling grain, 90 silver coins per sack, and nearby shouts were heard, 87 silver coins per sack, 85 per sack. At that moment, Leah, approaching the protagonist, said, this is wonderful. Everything is as he said. He looked at her and said, does she see, Leah? This is human nature. If he sells even half as slowly as others, he loses many times more. Everyone is afraid to sell too late, so they sell immediately. She said, Lord Rain, this way the price of grain will return to 50 silver coins per sack, right? And his water project will be completed on time. He was surprised. 50 silver? Leah, she underestimated these merchants. When people like Augustus start selling, grain becomes the cheapest thing in the city. Then Leah pressed her hand to her chest and asked, Young Master Rain, does he really think Augustus and his group will sell everything like those foreigners? They paid at least 2 gold, maybe more, to buy everything. Besides, Augustus and his friends were together at the banquet. They wouldn't attack each other, right? He folded his arms and smiling asked, together? She trusted them too much. When it comes to profit, no one wants to give up their position. Grain prices in the city will no longer be a problem. It's time to talk to the Holy Maiden about the second part of the deal. They should go. He turned away, and Leah, following him, agreed. After some time, a subordinate approached Augustus and said that these out-of-town merchants were lowering their prices like crazy. Now grain had dropped to 75 silver coins per sack. Roland rose from his seat and cried out in surprise. It can't be. He must be joking. They control all the grain in Essling. Where did these strangers get all this? He replied, it's true. He wouldn't dare lie to him. He knelt down, and then Augustus said, out-of-town grain merchants, the price is falling. He understood. He understood. Young Master Ryan, he's merciless. Does he want their families to collapse completely? As Roland asked, Sir Augustus, what's going on? He replied, Young Master Rain first spread the news that grain prices in the city were skyrocketing, which certainly attracted merchants from neighboring towns to bring their grain. Once they had swarmed the city, he used the church's name to drive down the price, causing panic among the merchants who had already arrived. Eventually, these out-of-town merchants were forced to sell at a loss to save money. Roland said, Young Master Rain, what a dirty trick. Augustus folded his arms and said he had another plan that should help them regain their position. Roland asked him to tell them already. He replied that this grain would last the city for several months. If they held on to the grain until the people despaired, they could sell it at a high price. If they united today and refused to sell, they would definitely make their money back. But if any of them tried to sell anything, they would all fail. Roland, sweating, realized he was right. He would go home now and order the grain locked up. As they headed for the exit, he put his hand to his head and thought, damn it, sell all the grain immediately. They can't be slower than them. One of the merchants thought, Roland, is he trying to escape? If this goes on, it'll be everyone's own business. Then they said, Sir Augustus, they need to go give orders too. Then the subordinate sitting in front of Augustus said he'll order their men to watch the grain and not sell a single gram. In response, he kicked him in the face and shouted, idiot. If he doesn't sell, what if those 3 idiots sell theirs? He asked, what then, sir? He ordered all the grain to be sold immediately. Not a single grain to be left behind. The subordinate agreed. After a while, the MC sat on a chair, pointed at a mountain of sacks filled with grain, and asked, Holy Virgin, what about this? Do her people have enough grain to survive the winter? She awkwardly asked. Why does it seem like the more grain they sell, the more they get? He said. Because they sell at the peak and buy at the dip. This strategy can make 70,000 gold. Then Lillian ran up to them and shouted, Young Master Rain, the price of grain has dropped again. Now you can buy 3 sacks for 1 gold coin. The protagonist pointed at Ayuria and said, she sees. He told her to wait a little while and the price would drop even lower, but she didn't believe him. If she buys now, she'll get another 10 sacks of grain. Can they negotiate a deal now? Holy Maiden? She asked what kind of deal he wanted to make with the elven tribe. He replied, any deal. He extended his hand to her, and she was surprised. Any deal? He replied, yes, any deal. They can provide for every aspect of the elven people's daily lives. From as small as grain to as large as land. They can make any deal, no matter what the elven people need. Ayuria worriedly noted that this was too important a decision for her to make alone. He must speak with their queen. He replied, no problem, please. She must arrange a meeting for him with their queen anytime. After that, Ayuria headed for the exit and, handing over the letter, Ilaria told her to deliver it to the queen. She agreed. Then the protagonist rested his chin on his hand and thought, with the grain crisis over, the nobles of Aisling wouldn't be able to cause trouble for a while. The Mages Guild was already under his control, and the church would soon follow. Right now, the city's lord, Elderic, had the army and the taxes in his hands. If they could take control of the army, no matter what Elderic did, he wouldn't be able to escape his grip. They needed to find a way to subjugate the army the best way. Then Leah came up behind him and called out to him. He looked surprised, Leah. She placed her hands on his head and said, Young Lord Rain, he needs more rest. He should let her help him relax. He replied that he wasn't that tired. He was just... At that moment, Trist ran up to them and shouted, these damn soldiers, using their power and hiding behind the Grand Duke's name. Why can't they ask the gods to strike them with lightning? Ayuria, standing before him, replied, well, the gods are merciful. He shouted that he could accept the losses in Essling, but to be robbed by these soldiers on his way home? How was he supposed to conduct business? It seemed the Grand Duke was involved too. The MC came up to them and said, man, what's going on? Trist pointed at him and asked, who is he? The protagonist thoughtfully replied, the one who wants to make a deal with him. After a while, the carriage carrying the protagonist stopped near a guard. He, turning to Lillian, shouted for her to stop. Who was she, and what was in her basket? She replied that she was a citizen of Essling. The basket contained goods she had purchased in the city. She was taking them to the elven tribe to see if they could be sold. The guard asked, does she think she can just trade like that? Search the basket. After that, several soldiers opened the cart, saw the pots, and pierced it with their weapons. Lillian screamed, please, they shouldn't do this. Now the pots are broken. How is she supposed to transport this? One of the soldiers turned to the boss and said, there's nothing there. What should they do? He said that in that case, he should charge her a fee. He said, girl, she must pay the fee, and then she can go. Lillian clenched her fists and shouted indignantly, they broke her things and expect her to pay a fee too. He replied, girl, she must pay or get lost. She wanted to object, but at that moment, the main character told her to pay them. She replied, okay. After that, she held out a coin and said, here. The soldier, smiling, said that young Master Ryan had raised the fee. Now it was 5 silver coins. Lillian shouted indignantly, what? 5 silver coins? All her goods are only worth 3. They want her to pay 5? He asked, does she pay or not? If not, then she should get out of here. She thought, okay. How dare he use Big Brother Rain's name to deceive people? He never ordered the toll to be increased. As soon as Big Brother's plan is completed, he will deal with them. Then she handed over the money, and the soldier ordered them to pass. The movement continued, and at that moment, MC, sitting in the carriage, looked at his new acquaintance and said, this young Master Ryan is simply something, raising the toll like that. The man told him to watch his language. Young Master Ryan is Essling's savior. He must not insult him. The protagonist thoughtfully remarked, he's a strange merchant. The soldier clearly said that young Master Ryan ordered the toll to be increased, and he blames the soldier, not the gentleman. He said with admiration that he must not be from around here. Young Master Rain used a brilliant plan to lower grain prices in the city and help the people. Although he lost money because of it, this was the first time he saw a ruler who cared so much about his people. If he ever had the opportunity to see young Master Rain, he would gladly serve him with all his heart. The protagonist spoke, but on the way here, he heard that the Grand Duke's youngest son not only killed people at the banquet, but also forced the townspeople to dig for some project. He replied that he must be talking about the Eldrin family. They deserved it. The protagonist asked if he knew them. He replied that he really wasn't from around here. Everyone who trades in the city knows the Eldrin family. Most people think they made their fortune from the casino, but that's not true. The protagonist asked with interest, what do you know? Trist looked around and then, covering his mouth with his hand, said, the real business this family is involved in is human trafficking. The protagonist asked in surprise, what did he just say? He thought, damn it, he doesn't have enough people. How dare they take away the labor force? First, they need to find a way to control the border guards. Otherwise, chaos will break out, and it will be difficult to prevent other countries from taking advantage of it. They heard Lillian indignantly ask why the toll had been raised again. They had already paid it when they left Essling. The guard standing at the gate said that the toll in the city only applies to the city. The toll at the border is the toll at the border. She shouted indignantly, he's lying. Before, you only had to pay once. He replied, girl, she has to either pay or get out of here. With these words, he pointed his weapon at her, and she, clenching her fist and shaking, asked how much the toll was. He replied, 1 gold coin. She shouted indignantly, what? 1 gold coin? That's stealing. Then MC suggested she just pay. She replied, Big Brother Rain, fine. At that moment, the guard shouted, are there people inside? Everyone out. This is a border crossing. All travelers must be searched. At that moment, the protagonist stepped out of the carriage and said that if they wanted to search, they could begin. The guard cried out in surprise, him? Trist, you old fool. He still dares to show up here? He trembled with fear. The protagonist, turning to him, asked if they knew each other. He said that these people were bandits from the neighboring mountains. Later, he contacted the Eldrin family and was responsible for supplying people, which is why they put him here. The guard said Trist, the last time he left the city, he didn't pay the toll, so he was severely reprimanded. He slapped him in the face and added that if he doesn't return the money, he won't leave today. The man put his hand to his face and shouted, impossible. He gave him the amount of money he named. The guard said there was no need for money back then, but that doesn't mean there isn't one now. If it had been anyone else, the brothers would have let the cart through, even without 5 gold pieces. He pointed his weapon at him and added, but since he's here now and still without 5 coins, he won't get through. MC said, no, that's a hefty fare. How can the city fare be so low? The soldier asked in surprise, where is he from? Then he looked at Leah and thought, there's such a beautiful girl in Essling. Trist, holding a bag of coins, said, they need 5 gold pieces and he'll give it to them right now. Please don't make things difficult for them. They're his trading friends. The soldier picked up the bag and spoke, as expected, like an honest old comrade. He tossed the bag to another soldier and told them to put it aside for him. Then he reached out to Leah and asked, Beauty, where does she live? The next second, the protagonist grabbed his hand and said, initially, he wanted to see if they could become a free labor force, but now it looks like everything is completely hopeless. The guard shouted angrily, he thirsts for death. He then pointed his weapon forward, but before he could attack, Leah, armed with a knife, instantly attacked him, causing him to fall dead to the ground. The other soldiers looked at him in horror. After this, the protagonist said, Leah, she must kill all the resistors and allow their escort to change the guard here. She put her hand to her chest and said, yes, Lord Rhine. The soldier shouted, hurry, they must run. There are killers here. They are asking for help. But at that moment, Leah rushed after them, pointing her weapon forward. She attacked everyone at once. At that moment, the protagonist looked at the system window and thought, are these people really soldiers? They have such a big difference in numbers. He remembered how the Eldarian had told him, Rain, since Essling is the territory of a warring country, he must be careful not to provoke a conflict between the two countries. Did he understand? He thought, Luckily, he discovered this big problem. Otherwise, if a conflict with the Empire arose, he would have lost. At this point, Leah continued to deal with the soldiers. They looked at her approach in horror. At this point, Caesar shouted indignantly, "Who dares to create problems on the Essling border?" The soldiers joyfully turned around and shouted, "General Caesar is approaching. They are saved. General Caesar, he must save them." The general approached them and asked, "Are they the ones causing trouble on the border?" MC looked at him, and noticing the system window, thought that Caesar was disloyal, but he was a real talent. Then he said that he was Caesar from the Holker family. He has a brother working in Priscilla's territory, right? Caesar was surprised. Who was he? How did he know his brother? The protagonist answered, "His older sister, Priscilla Edgar." He shouted in bewilderment, "Is he Lord Rhine, the youngest son of the Aldarian Grand Duke?" The soldiers were surprised. "What? The son of the Grand Duke?" The end. They insulted the wrong person. The Duke thought he remembered his brother's letter. Then Elderic, smiling, opened the chest of gold in front of him and said, "General Caesar, Essling is relying on him in the future." Caesar thanked him for his kindness in return. The Grand Duke sent him to such an inhospitable place because he treated him lightly. Needless to say, his strength deserves his status. "He deserves it too, right?" he replied. "That's right, that's what he deserves. He shouldn't waste his life in such a place." Caesar then reached for his weapon and shouted, "How dare he pretend to be Lord Rhine? All soldiers obey orders. They must kill this false Lord Rhine, and he will reward them generously." Leah then pointed her hand forward and shouted, "How dare he? Caesar is planning a rebellion." One of the knights turned to Caesar and shouted, "He must not do this. This is a crime that will lead to the destruction of the family." The others agreed. "That's right, Lord Caesar." Then he drew his sword and asked, "Have they forgotten what they just did? They have already insulted the son of the Grand Duke and mocked the law. They should have heard what Rhine did. He destroyed the Eldrin family and 4 lords. This is the western part of the Caradorial Empire, and they have power that they have earned over the years." He waved his hand and shouted, "If they take Rhine's head to the Orvis Empire in the north, they can at least live a happy life as minor nobility. Life or death, they can choose for themselves. He is not forcing them." After that, he pointed his sword forward. The soldiers began to doubt. Should they listen to the general? Leah, looking at them, thought, "Damn, they are bewitched." Then one of them said, "The general is right. They must follow the general." Caesar smirked and said, "Lord Rhine, his dying words?" The protagonist said, "If they correct themselves, he will give them a chance to start over. It will be a shame if..." Before he could finish speaking, Caesar shouted, "Army, they must follow the command. Strike, kill." They charged, and then Leah, pulling the fabric over her knife, said, "The skirt is in the way." After that, she cut off the excess fabric and, pushing off the ground, charged. She slit the throat of one of the guards. Then she saw a weapon approaching her, and flipping in the air, flew to the side. Then she spun the knife in her hands and attacked the next soldier. At that moment, one of the soldiers ran at the protagonist, weapon pointed forward, shouting, "He must die." Leah, without thinking, threw the weapon, throwing the soldiers aside. The protagonist said, "Caesar, this is his last chance. He must not hide." In response, he only shouted, "Kill them all. Anyone who kills him will receive a reward of 1,000 gold coins. Kill." The soldiers ran forward and shouted, "The gold will be his." One of them, swinging his weapon, approached Leah from behind, but she kicked him in the chin, then followed up with a knee strike, scattering the soldiers attacking her in all directions. At that moment, Caesar, turning to a mage standing nearby, said, "Mages, they must obey orders. They must take down this fool for him." The mage replied, "Yes, Lord Caesar." He concentrated energy in his hands and fired an ice arrow. It flew straight at Leah. She swung her leg and shattered the ice arrows, and then thought, "Damn." Her legs were covered in ice, and she thought she couldn't move. Caesar shouted, "Troops, they must obey orders. This fool can't move anymore. They must kill Rhine immediately." The others rushed to the attack and shouted, "Kill." The next second, the protagonist threw his hammer forward and shouted, "Leah, she must find a way to jump immediately." She caught the hammer in her hand and answered, "Yes, Mr. Rhine." Then she smashed the ice on her feet and jumped up sharply. The protagonist said, "It's time to test the power of this thing." An electric wire appeared next to him. It hit the ground, and all the soldiers standing in front were electrocuted. MC, standing on special plates, said, "Luckily, the ceramic broke." One of the soldiers was surprised. "What's going on?" His partner shouted, "Thunder magic." The protagonist said, "It would be nice if he could capture this scene on video. The video is a safety warning for future products. It will remind people to handle electricity with care." Caesar shouted, "Damn it, why are they standing there? They must continue the attack. Kill him." The soldier next to him, trembling with fear, said, "This is bad. General Mr. Rhine has used forbidden magic. Anyone who approaches him will die." In response, Caesar severed his head from his body, and throwing his sword over his shoulder, said that anyone who stood against the army would be killed. They must advance immediately. He is alone. He does not believe that he can kill them all. After this, a soldier, trembling with fear, walked forward and asked, "What is happening?" At that moment, Leah asked, "Lord Rhine, why didn't his magic knock out these soldiers?" He folded his arms over his chest and said that the energy must have run out. He was just checking the battery capacity anyway. She came closer and said, "Then she must take him away from here immediately." He told her not to worry. Caesar will not escape today. At that moment, Caesar pointed his hand forward and shouted, "They must chase them immediately. It looks like Rhine's magic is finished. We must kill him." The next second, a powerful electric shock fell to the ground. Caesar, perplexed, looked up and asked, How is this possible? Why is the Magic Guild here? Selena was in the sky, concentrating energy around herself. She said, Caesar, boy, he's quite insolent. Is she on time, young master? MC turned around and said, on time. The battery had just run out. She flew closer and was surprised. He used the battery? And what was the effect? He replied that he would tell her after Caesar and the others were arrested. She replied that she understood, young master. All mages must obey the order. Help the master defeat the revolutionaries. The next second, all the mages began to unleash powerful energy directly at the attackers. Screams and pleas for mercy were heard. The soldiers, trying to escape, shouted for mercy. They were wrong. They wouldn't dare again. Caesar clenched his teeth in anger and shouted, damn it, Rain, even if he dies, he will take him with him. Then he ran in the opposite direction, trying to get as far away as possible from the magical attacks falling on him. He swung his sword, running up to the protagonist and shouted that he must die. After that, he stabbed forward, but his sword was stopped by Leah, who held her knife in front of the sword. She blocked the attack and thought, damn. Caesar thought the maid was too close. Then she swung her leg, and he thought, this is bad. Her foot flew right into his face, causing him to fly back and crash into the wall. Smoke scattered in all directions, and Leah said, bastard. After some time, the protagonist, looking at the document, asked, Caesar, has he come to his senses? He, a border guard, has been stealing money for several years, ever since they started working with Elderic. Caesar, tied to a pole, indignantly shouted, how did he know? MC told him not to be surprised. He already knew Elderic was planning to betray them. He was simply waiting for the right moment, the chance to strike him down with one blow. Placing his hand on the stack of books, he added, thanks to him, he can finally end this. Caesar said, what did he do with Lord Elderic with the little evidence of corruption he had? He replied, no, he misunderstood. This information does not threaten him in any way. He only knows how much money passes through these accounts annually. In the future, this will play into his hands during the transformation of Aisling. He was surprised. The transformation of Aisling? Did he dream it? Lord Elderic controls the sources of life of all the nobility of Aisling. They will not listen to him. The protagonist said, Caesar, he must let him say something. Living people are called nobility, dead people are called corpses. Then he rose from his seat and Caesar shouted, does he want to make a bloodbath of the nobility in Aisling? The protagonist came closer and said that the nobility have two choices. The first is to follow the same path as him, to death, and the second is to obediently listen to him and obey him in the future. Which one do you think they will choose? According to the time calculations, it would be autumn. Grand Duke Soren would definitely send troops this year. After some time, MC thought that he needed to quickly repair all the cities, otherwise it wouldn't be able to stop the enemy during the war. In the Western Elven territory, which belonged to the Holy Mists and others, there would be no war as long as the negotiations were successful. He unfolded the map and thought that there was no need to worry about the Second Sister's territory in the east. The most dangerous was Grand Duke Soren in the north. At that moment, Leah approached him and said, Lord Rain, the money extorted from all the border posts was estimated at around 3,500 gold. The protagonist suggested transferring the guards to ensure protection first. Each should be given 100 gold coins, and the rest should be taken back to Aisling. Leah agreed, and then the protagonist waved and said, Miss Selena. He approached and thanked her and the Magic Guild for their hard work. She smiled sweetly and said that it was not difficult at all. She held out the electric wire and asked, but could the young master explain the principles of battery discharge in detail? Why would someone without magical ability use it? He awkwardly scratched the back of his head and said, okay, he'll explain slowly on the way back. She agreed. At that moment, Malcolm ran up to them and shouted, President Selena, this is bad. She turned around and asked, what the hell is going on? He must tell. He shouted, Lord Rhine, the city's ruler, Elderic, has captured the city and rebelled. Selena, perplexed, asked, what? The protagonist thought he'd finally run out of patience. Selena turned to him and asked, young master, what should we do? To suppress the border guards, she pulled all the mages out of the guild. Now there's no one in the city to act as an inside agent. The MC smiled and told her not to worry. Elderic lost the moment he raised the city in rebellion. Sometime later, the protagonist and the others reached the city walls. He said, Elderic, did he force him into a difficult situation? He stood on the wall, folded his arms and asked, could it really be Lord Rain? What does he want to do in the city today? The protagonist asked, curious, why did he betray his father? He shouted indignantly, why? Because he simply abandoned him in this backwater when he and his father united to establish an empire. After he became the leader, he not only treated him less than he deserved, he threw him and his family into a remote wasteland. He wrote to him numerous times in the hopes that he would transfer him to a more promising place, but he rejected them all. He pointed his finger at him and shouted that it was all his father's fault. If he wanted to blame someone, he should blame him for being cold and ruthless. There were those who conquered the world with his father, but they all got less than they deserved. They don't rebel, they take back what they've won. The protagonist said he thought he'd give him a worthy reason, but this was a boring debate about interests. He'd give them one chance if they wanted to survive. They must leave the city and its surroundings immediately. If they wait for him to infiltrate the city in 3 days, they shouldn't blame him for his cruelty. One of those present chuckled. 3 days? Young sir? Does he even know how long it will take him to break into the city? The man next to him laughed loudly. Elderic, also laughing, asked, Lord Rain, he must be scared, right? The man next to him added, what kind of fool is he? All talk and no action. He added, Lord Reen, if he's so confident, would he dare make a bet with him? The protagonist asked. What bet? He replied that if he couldn't penetrate Essling within 3 days, he would humbly surrender and allow him to rule over it. MC asked if he broke through. He laughed in response and said that if he broke through, he could do whatever he wanted. So what? He dares to accept this bet? At this point, Selena turned to the protagonist and said, there's no need to listen to him. They can fight them immediately. Leah added, Lord Rain, she had already reported to the Grand Duke about Elderic's rebellion. They need to wait for the Duke to send his troops to defeat them. There's no need to make such fearless bets with him. Elderic said, Lord Rain, why isn't he answering? Is he afraid? He should be afraid. He just said he would break into the city in 3 days. And now he's just a coward. If there's a chance, he should accept the bet. Is he scared? The protagonist said that since he wanted to humiliate himself, he would satisfy him and accept the bet. He hoped that they could keep their promise in 3 days. He replied, okay, everyone present is a witness. The deal is done. By the way, Lord Ryan, he almost forgot to tell him something. The Orvis Empire army received news of his rebellion. It's unlikely to reach the border fortress in 10 days. Lord Reen cannot be captured by enemies. After some time, MC and his team took a place in the tent. Selena said, young sir, although the walls of Essling seem half destroyed, it will be difficult for them to break through with their strength alone. A warrior standing nearby added, Lord Rain, he must allow him to be taken south. When the Grand Duke's army arrives, they will attack Essling. The protagonist told them not to worry. These walls will fall in 3 days. Now he is worried about the army of the Orvis Empire. Leah, has she collected enough firewood and bales of hay? She replied, Lord Rain, everything is ready, and at his request they found a lake nearby. He said, Selena, she must do as he says. She must have the mages use ice magic on the lake. This is necessary to lower the temperature of the water in the lake, preferably to about 0 degrees Celsius. Selena asked, her lord, will this really help break through the wall? He told her not to worry. The wall would only stand for 3 days. After some time, he mounted his horse, and together with the warriors, they charged forward. He shouted, attack! The warriors, holding bales of hay, ran forward, protecting themselves with their shields from the arrows flying at them. Elderic, watching what was happening from the wall, thought in surprise, these people are attacking the city without weapons. Why do they need firewood? What? They just throw it away and run away? He asked in surprise. What's going on? Could they have counted on this when they were defending the city? The archer next to him said that they hadn't seen anything like that either. Maybe he wanted to set the city wall on fire? He punched him in the face and shouted indignantly, set the stone on fire? Can he even hear himself? The archer put his hand to the bruised place and spoke, but he really couldn't think of anything else. Elderic shouted indignantly. At that moment, the warrior next to him added, Lord Elderic, it's burning. They were really going to set the city wall on fire. He shouted in surprise. Huh? They were really going to set the stone on fire. The young lord is just a fool. Then another warrior approached him and asked, he wants their mages to put out the fire, or does he want to shoot arrows at the soldiers holding the firewood? He replied, no need. The couple of mages they took from the Orvis Empire shouldn't enter until the critical moment. They can't waste their magical energy on this. And don't waste your arrows on them or the firewood. In 3 days, he will humiliate him on this city wall. After that, he laughed loudly, and the fire, heating up the stones, grew ever stronger. Sometime later, the city lord's estate. A subordinate approached Elderic and, kneeling, said that he reports, Lord, it seems the other side does not intend to continue the fire. He was surprised, huh? They burned all the firewood for the winter? He laughed and told them to follow him and witness how the idiot young lord surrenders to him. The others said, yes. Today is the last day of the wager between Lord Elderic and Lord Rhine. Lord Elderic must win. That's right. The city wall is almost crumbling from the heat. It's difficult to approach this, let alone besiege it. After some time, he climbed the wall and shouted, Lord Rain, is he going to put out the fire and come and surrender? The protagonist, seated on horseback, replied, Elderic and the best of the nobility. He's giving them one last chance. They must surrender now or die later. Elderic asked, Lord Rain, is there something wrong with his head? What makes him think they'll surrender? Has he forgotten the bet they made 3 days ago? Is today the last day? If Aisling isn't destroyed by sunset today, they must humbly surrender. Or does he want to abandon his duty to both armies? The man standing behind him laughed loudly and remarked, that's right. He should think about how to break into the city. The man next to him added, he won't back down from his duty, right? Then MC put his hand to his head and told them not to blame him in that case. He said, Selena, come on. The next second, she concentrated energy in her hand and said, understood, young lord. At that moment, Elderic pointed his finger at her and shouted, mages, quickly on guard. She continued to concentrate energy, and the next second, she directed it downwards. The mages immediately created a barrier, defending themselves from the attack, and they shouted, magic barrier, but her attack was aimed at the bottom of the wall. The mage asked in surprise, huh? Elderic laughed loudly and shouted that it made him laugh. She can shoot crookedly. He didn't think Selena from the Mage Guild was capable of anything more. Then he looked ahead in surprise and asked, is it raining? Then the protagonist shouted, all units obey the command. Attack! They must attack. At this moment, the warriors, covering themselves with shields, dragged buckets of water straight to the wall. The protagonist caught Selena's hands and thanked her. He thought he hadn't really thought she could cause a change in the weather. This would help solve the drought problem in the future. She asked, young sir, is this method of his truly effective? He took her hand and told her not to worry. when the wall would be covered in ice, it would cease to exist. At that moment, Leah cried out, "Master, he must come back." Several buckets of ice fell onto the wall. It began to crack. Eldrick wondered in surprise. What was happening? Why was the city wall making such sounds? Only very powerful mages could do something like that. The men next to him shouted in surprise. What was happening? What was that sound? He shouted. What? It's impossible. The man next to him shouted. It looks like the city wall is collapsing. The next second, they all fell down. The wall shattered into small pieces. He shouted loudly, "No." After that, the protagonist pointed his finger forward and shouted, "The wall has been destroyed. All units attack." They are to arrest those who surrender and do not resist, and immediately kill those who persist. Attack. Selena, watching what was happening, thought, did the wall really fall? She was afraid that even with her full strength, it would be difficult for her to inflict such damage. How did the young master do this? Then the protagonist approached her and said, "Okay, Miss Selena, they should go home." After a while, Eldrick emerged from the rubble and put his hand to his chest. He didn't think he'd be so capable. He'd underestimated him. He needed to run quickly. If he could hold out until the Orvis Empire army arrived, he'd survive. Then he looked at his comrades in surprise and said, "What are they?" One of the men asked, "Where do you think he's going?" The man in front of him added, "Lord Eldrick. They don't want to die, so they can only blame him." The man next to him asked, "Is he trying to escape?" After a while, the villagers gathered in the street shouted, "Lord Ryan is excellent." Exactly. You destroyed such a strong city wall in just 3 days. Besides, aside from a couple of idiots who sprained their legs, there were no casualties at all. Selena, flying up to the protagonist riding in front, said, "Young master." She's begging him, "Please." He must tell her how he did it. She's begging him so much. He thought it seemed that if he didn't explain, she wouldn't enter the city. Then he looked at her and said, "It's all based on the physical principle of expansion and contraction depending on temperature." She wondered, what kind of principle is this expansion and contraction? Expansion and contraction in physics refers to the expansion of an object when heated, and its contraction when cooled. The principle is based on the law of motion of the particles, atoms, or molecules that make up an object when subject to temperature changes. When the temperature rises, the range of vibration of the particles increases, causing the object to expand. When the temperature drops, the range decreases, causing the object to contract. He'd tell her the rest after he dealt with that idiot Eldrick. After a while, they approached a collapsed wall. A man crawled out from behind the rubble and said, "Master Ryan, he must save him." But the protagonist asked, "Is he trying to trick him?" He looked him in the eyes and said, "Lord Reen, he was deceived by Eldrick, but then submitted to him." The man next to him added, "That's right. They wanted to capture him and atone for their crimes, but he unexpectedly turned against them." The protagonist said he gave them 2 chances, but they, unfortunately, did not take them. The man shouted, "Lord Rain, they are ready to give up all the family property. Please, he must leave them alive." The protagonist replied that even if he kills them, the family property will still be his. He cried out in fear, "Lord Rain, he will not be favored if he does this. This is tyranny." He took the coin between his fingers and noticed that they were mistaken. People do not favor anyone, only their own interests. In their entire long lives, they still have not understood this. Then he ordered the arrest of these idiots. Let them await their punishment. After some time, Eldrick ran to Eldrin and shouted, "They must run." He really broke through the wall. He was surprised. "What? How did he do that?" He replied, "The city wall burned for a couple of days, then was doused with water and collapsed." He shouted indignantly. What nonsense was he talking about? How could they break into the city so easily? There's definitely no such simple way to lay siege in the world. This must be some kind of powerful magic. Eldrick took his hand and shouted, "Whatever this is, they need to run. They won't be able to escape when Rain comes with his soldiers." At that moment, MC entered the room and said, "Well, where are you going?" Eldrick turned around and asked how he got here so quickly. The protagonist, walking forward, said that it was all because he abandoned the city wall and tried to escape. The soldiers following him dropped their weapons when they saw him running away. They no longer resisted, so no one stood in his way. After that, he approached Eldrin and asked, "Is he behind Eldrick? Does he wear a mask because of disfigurement or scars?" He replied, "Rain. In a couple of days, he won't speak so arrogantly. The Orvis Empire army is already on its way. If he hadn't destroyed the Esling city wall, he could have lived a couple of days longer. When the Orvis Empire army arrives, they will repay for all the humiliation." Then he threw the scroll in front of him, and MC ordered, "Leah, she must stop him." The next second, she threw a knife forward with lightning speed. The mask on Eldrin's face shattered and fell to the ground. She approached the protagonist. Eldrin thought, was it her? Then he shouted, "He will definitely come back." After that, it was as if he vanished into thin air. Leah, looking at the protagonist, apologized. It was her fault that she was late, and let him go. He replied that she shouldn't worry. He knew this would happen. It's bad not to know the identity of the enemy. She said that she knew this person. He was surprised, right? He's an acquaintance of hers? She replied that it was not so, not that much. His name was Eldrin Crowclaw, and he was a subordinate of the Grand Duke. Later, Later, during the war, he betrayed him and defected to Grand Duke Soren of an enemy country. The protagonist asked in surprise, is his name Eldrin too? Perhaps he was a relative of the recently executed Adrian? She remarked that it was true. He was originally the leader of the Eldrin family. He opposed the Lord's ideals, so he left the family and joined the enemy, Grand Duke Soren. The protagonist answered thoughtfully, I see. Then Selena said, young lord, the situation is under control, but what about the Orvis Empire? She fears that even if all the mages from the Mage Guild united to repair the wall, they wouldn't have time. The magic from the young lord's thermal expansion had caused too much damage. He told her not to worry, he would find a solution. After some time, he came out to the square where the residents had gathered. Selena, standing nearby, thought, the young master clearly wants to calm the people, but what will he say to prevent panic? The next second, he took out a megaphone and shouted, can they hear him? He has something to say. The Orvis Empire army has advanced on them. They will be here in a few days. Did everyone hear this? The villagers trembled in fear. They were shouting, what? An army? Selena, perplexed, shouted, young master, what is he doing? The villagers were perplexed. What? The Orvis Empire is attacking them again. They retreated in the spring. Why did they come back again? The man, looking at his comrade, said that they should pack their belongings and flee. He replied, but he lived so well under the rule of Lord Rain. Selena said, young master, he is too impulsive. You can't tell people such things. He asked, why? She replied, when people hear that they are about to be attacked, they intuitively expect protection from the army. They have no military training. It is difficult for them to remain calm when a threat looms over them. He replied, Miss Selena, she misunderstood. On the battlefield, only the commander should be calm. The soldiers are the last to remain calm. She was surprised. What? Then he held out a letter and shouted. It was a letter of challenge sent to him from the Orvis Empire. It says that Esling is teeming with scum and fools who do not dare to defend their homes and will flee, leaving it alone. The villagers were surprised. What? How dare these idiots write such a thing about them? Damn it, these idiots take their food every year. This time they will not accept it and will fight to the end. Then MC shouted, it seems the Orvis Empire doesn't know them at all. They are not scum and fools, are they? The villagers shouted, yes, they will fight back. They will lose nothing if they give up 1 for 1, but they will gain blood if they exchange 1 for 2. The protagonist shouted, excellent. Everyone has enough courage to fight. Then he, Rain Edgar, swears that he will lead them to drive the Orvis Empire from their lands. The villagers shouted, hooray! Sometime later, in Lord Aisling's estate, the protagonist was examining a document. Leah approached him, holding a cup of drink, and said, please, he should have a cup of tea and rest. He replied, there is no time to rest, Leah. We need to find a solution before the Orvis Empire arrives. Otherwise, all of Aisling will be captured by them. Leah asked, what was he talking about today? He put his cup back on the saucer and replied, it was a lie to calm the villagers. If the people panic, the city will be destroyed. It will be difficult even to ensure a proper evacuation, and people will do everything in a panic. She said, he must let her take him out of the city. She can't bear to see the danger looming over him. He told her not to worry. He asked Malcolm and Selena to get the children, the elderly, and the women out. It's not time to give up yet. Then he picked up the book and thought, is this serious? He'll ask Leah. Then he handed the book to her and asked if she knew what this dark green divine oil was. She answered thoughtfully. As far as she remembered, it was something flammable. It seemed witches used it during rituals. The oil is a very rich color, dark red, gold, dark green, black, brown, transparent. The color of the oil depends on the content of gum and asphaltine. The higher the content, the darker the color. MC thought, flammable oil? Really? Then he shouted, hurry, she must let him look at it. The book says it's in the pantry. After some time, they approached the door, and the protagonist ordered that they open the storeroom door. The guards standing at the entrance agreed and opened the door. After this, the protagonist pointed forward and told them to find him something called dark green divine oil. They remembered not to keep the fire open. If they were unsure whether they had found it, they should pull it out. They need to find a barrel. The worker said, yes, Mr. Ryan. At that moment, the protagonist looked at the huge number of chests with coins. As he thought, Isling's taxes had been embezzled by Eldrick for years. When the crisis ended, he would immediately invest this money in development as soon as the dam was built. After this, one of the workers shouted, Mr. Rain, they found it. They pulled out several barrels. MC ran up to them and shouted for them to give it to him. After that, he removed the lid from the barrel and smiling thought, Esling can be saved. Sometime later, the military camp of the Orvis Empire, Eldrin, entering the tent, said, he apologizes, Lord Castile. They have failed. The Grand Duke of the Orvis Empire, Castile Waldron, said he knew the two of them would fail, but he didn't expect them to be such scum. They lost the city in 3 days. Eldrick shouted, Lord, Rain used a forbidden spell to destroy the city wall. That's why they lost. If not for it, they would have been able to hold out until his arrival in Esling. He specified, forbidden spell? Did Aldarion really send a mage who knew a forbidden spell to save his youngest son? Eldrin walked further and said, Lord Castile, he shouldn't worry. Mages who know forbidden spells can't use them twice in a short time, especially since the city wall was destroyed by rain and can't be rebuilt so quickly. Now is definitely a good time to attack, he replied. No need to remind him. He's not as stupid as they are. They have nothing more to do here. They can return to the Orvis Empire and await news. Eldrin spoke up, the two of them having devised a plan. What was he saying? He replied that he was saying that he, Eldrin Crow's Claw, was exiled. Then he tossed the scroll forward. Eldrin understood this and opened it. It said that this war had begun because of Eldrin Crow's Claw's personal vendetta. As a result, other wars had begun, people had been displaced, territories had been drenched in blood. He, the Lord, had always strived for peace and had absolutely no desire to witness such horrific scenes for all of humanity. As proof of their desire for peace, he ordered Crow's Claw captured and taken to prison, where he would pay for all his crimes. He hoped that this would calm him down and stop the war. Let this end the heartless fighting and bring peace to them all. He hoped that their lands would enjoy tranquility from now on and that the people would live in peace and security. God bless him and let the world last forever. Eldrin, gritting his teeth, shouted, "Castile, idiot!" In response, the Duke ordered that this man be seized and kept in prison until the war was over. The guards, grabbing him by the shoulders, shouted, "Yes!" They led him out into the street, and he screamed, "He doesn't dare. They must let him go." At that moment, Eldrick, trembling with fear, thought that if he knew about this, he would have fled immediately. Castile, putting his fingers to his forehead, asked Mr. Eldrick what he thinks he should do with him. He replied that he begs for mercy. He knows a secret. He knelt down and said that this could expand the Orvis Empire. Sometime later, in the main hall of Turlandia, Priscilla, sitting on the sofa, looked at the document. "This is Ryan's elder sister, ruler of the Turlandia territory." Gwen approached her and said, "A letter on behalf of Mr. Ryan written by Leah Alice." Priscilla thought, "How is Rain now? She needs to go see him when she has time." Then she opened the letter and shouted in surprise, "Idiot! Gwen, she must call this idiot Willis Holker." She put her hand to her chest and answered, "Yes, Miss Priscilla." After some time, Willis knelt before her and asked, "Senior Miss, what happened?" She shouted, "Willis, he is so brave. Dare to rebel." He asked in bewilderment, "Senior Miss, what is she talking about? How can she believe such an obvious lie? They opened the trade route with her help last month. They have no reason to rebel." She threw the letter in his face and shouted, "The evidence is irrefutable. He still dares to invent an excuse. He must see for himself." Then he took out a letter that said, "Dear Miss Priscilla, she hopes this letter will be delivered on time, despite her schedule. Since Lord Ryan arrived in Esling, he has discovered that things are not as peaceful as he thought. The city's lord, Eldrick, has teamed up with the Grand Duke of the Orvis Empire to attempt a rebellion and has conspired with the Esling nobility, including the head of the border guards, General Caesar. Although Caesar was captured and neutralized thanks to Lord Reen's resourcefulness, she must be vigilant of the other members of the Holker family, and she must not underestimate their cunning and calculation. She hopes that she can send troops to support Lord Ryan and help against the advancing army of the Orvis Empire. Best wishes, Headmaid, Leah Alice." Willis, after reading all this, thought, "What?" Priscilla asked if he had anything to add. He shouted, "Head Miss, this is that idiot Caesar's personal fault. This has nothing to do with the Holker family at all. Yes, he wrote to that idiot Caesar last month, asking him to listen to Mr. Ryan's words. Please, she must make an unbiased decision." She thought his reactions and actions seemed sincere. Was this really Caesar's idea? He added, "Eldest Miss, she must give the Holker family a chance. They will prove their loyalty." She asked, "What kind of chance do they want?" He replied that he was asking for his only daughter to lead the army helping Lord Reen against the Orvis Empire. She asked, "Rosalind? But she is very young and has already graduated from the Knight Academy. If something happens, his family will be left without heirs." He replied, "Please, she must be sure. The Holker family is ready to sacrifice everything for the eldest miss. If not for her, their family would have ceased to exist long ago. Please, she must give them a chance to prove their loyalty." At that moment, Priscilla, turning to Gwen, told her to send someone to keep an eye on Rosalind. If she's wrong, we must kill her on the spot. Meanwhile, in Esling, the army lined up on a cliff near the city. Castile, looking down, asked, "Is this Esling?" Eldrick, standing nearby, remarked that it was true. "Once he breaks through here, it will be his." "Lord Castile, it seems Rain used magic to restore the city wall. The previous one was even worse than this one. It looks like he's digging a new moat." In response, the Lord laughed and said, "It seems Rain is an idiot, wasting the mage's precious energy on rebuilding the city wall." Eldrick approached him and said, "But with the wall restored, it will be harder for them to fight." Why was he so happy? He replied that a city wall can be built where it's easy to defend and difficult to attack. But nearby is a lowland crossed only by a river, which can't stop an army from attacking. If the mages have magical powers, they can prevent the attack. But if all the magic went into building the city wall, they would be useless because they wouldn't be able to use their powers during an attack on the city. Eldrick said happily, "Exactly. He really is very wise." At that moment, a knight approached them and said, "Lord Castile, they don't need to storm this fortress if they want to capture the city. They can send troops to surround it. Then they can go straight to the city to isolate it." Castile turned his gaze to him and asked what he meant. He thought the Duke was incapable of conquering a fortress. He knelt down and replied that he had misunderstood. He meant that it could reduce the number of casualties. After all, it was a siege. He said that in war, everyone dies. Besides, some of the troops they arrived with were new recruits. This city could be used for their training. He agreed. After that, he rose into the sky and said, "They must go. They will give this young lord a dressing down. Maybe he'll give up the moment he sees the Duke." The mage flew after him and agreed. Meanwhile, the protagonist looked at the system window in front of him, and it said, "Ascension Ascension of 5 heroes with high-level attributes is in progress, 0 out of 5. He said he didn't have time to look for anyone. This quest has been pending for half a month. He needs to think of a solution quickly. Leah, standing opposite, said, Lord Rain, the Grand Duke of the Orvis Empire Castile, and his mage want to see him outside the city. After some time, the MC walked out onto the wall, and the soldiers standing there noticed him. After that, Castile, hovering in the sky, shouted, Rain, the Grand Duke is giving him a chance. The protagonist pointed at him and asked, Is this fool really Grand Duke Castile? The soldiers laughed loudly, and Leah said, That's right, Lord Rain, this fool is Grand Duke Castile. At that moment he shouted, Fool, how dare he show such disrespect? Even his father hadn't dared to despise him so much. The protagonist shoved his hands into his pants pockets and asked, Grand Duke Castile, what on earth does he want here? He shouted that he was here to give him a chance to beg for forgiveness. If he didn't surrender now, he would turn this place into a river of blood. He replied that he would give him a chance too, but if he didn't want to die here, he must immediately send his army back to his territory. Castile looks down on the castle. He sternly exclaimed that it seemed the protagonist truly didn't know right from wrong. The Duke personally led an army of 10,000 men to the city. If MC doesn't want to die, he must surrender immediately. Rain closed his eyes and asked Leah to teach the Duke a lesson. She lifted her dress and revealed the knives attached to her leg. Leah quickly pulled out a knife and threw it towards the enemy. The mage instantly covered the Duke, and directing a stream of mana from his hand, asked Castile to be careful. A magical shield surrounded the mage and the Duke. The knife pierced the shield with tremendous force and left a scratch on Castile's face. The mage worriedly asked, Is Castile all right? The Duke clenched his teeth in anger and said it was a curse. The protagonist calmly crossed his arms and clarified that it was a warning. Next time, his maid would hit the target right away. Castile turned his head to the side and ordered the mage to leave. MC ordered Selena to prepare for battle because they were about to attack the city. She instantly agreed with him. After some time, the knights announced their return. The knight looked at the Duke and asked, What happened? Castile exclaimed seriously, This despicable Rain was conspiring against him. He ordered an immediate attack on the city. Castile will tie up the protagonist and cruelly torture him tonight. The knight fearfully noted that they had been running for 3 days non-stop to reach the Esling border. Can they wait until tomorrow? Will the Duke allow the soldiers to rest for half a day? Castile punched the knight in the head and called him a freak. He angrily clarified, Are they tired after 3 sleepless days of running? Are they really soldiers of the great Orvis Empire? The knight, with great fear, asked Castile to calm down. Even if the soldiers weren't tired, they would still need them to build bridges and prepare equipment. There's no need to rush. The soldiers unanimously supported the knights. Castile barked sternly that they didn't know how to fight. Since ancient times, speed had been the most important part of war. The enemy probably thinks they'll wait a day before attacking the city. If they attack the city right now, they can win. The Duke confidently ordered that the order be carried out. The city must be attacked immediately. Meanwhile, in the tents of the Orvis Empire, a tired soldier noted that after 3 days and nights of running, they had finally arrived. He nearly died of fatigue. His comrade agreed and asked, Who the hell said being a soldier was easy? The soldier grinned maliciously and asked, Will they guess what he just saw? His comrade asked him to stop sowing suspicion in them and talking. The soldier joyfully exclaimed that he saw them chasing a sheep. They will have a good dinner today. His comrade raised his fists enthusiastically, and the soldier shouted that after 3 days and nights of running, he would finally be able to eat well. The commander ordered everyone to gather and prepare to attack the city. A soldier approached him and yelled that they had been running for 3 days and 3 nights. They had no energy left. Are they going to go without dinner before the battle? The commander sternly ordered them not to say such strange things. As soldiers, they should only obey orders, and now they must prepare to attack the city. The soldiers burst into tears and agreed with him. After some time, the soldiers stopped in front of a river flowing near the gate. They ran quickly and ordered to kill the opponents. At the same time, a subordinate asked when Rain would give the order to shoot. The protagonist looked in surprise at the enemy soldiers who jumped into the ditch. He turned his head to the side and asked if any of them had fought against the army of the Orvis Empire. The subordinate sternly replied that he had once been honored to fight against them. MC, looking at the soldiers' tired faces, asked why their soldiers looked like they hadn't eaten? Or were people in the Orvis Empire built like that? The subordinate said that, in response to the protagonist's words, he could only say, based on experience, that these were new recruits. Moreover, they seemed to be hungry. Rain was very surprised and clarified, They don't feed the attackers? The subordinate replied that he only had 2 assumptions. First, they may have little food, so the soldiers are hungry. The subordinate became very angry and fell silent. The protagonist sternly asked him to continue. The subordinate added that second, Duke Castile is probably using these people, letting them die from the means of defending their city, like arrows. MC interrupted him and yelled, What does this mean? Their emperor is capable of such things? Aren't these people citizens of the Orvis Empire? The subordinate noted that there are very few rulers in the world who love the people as much as the protagonist and Grand Duke Aldarion. Most of them are the same as Grand Duke Castile. MC lowered his head and thought about using people to kill. Then Castile might not accuse him of ruthlessness. The subordinate looked down and clarified that they should have enough arrows to kill these new recruits. When are they going to release them? Rain smiled confidently and replied that they will not shoot arrows. The protagonist looked at the soldiers who had crossed the ditch. MC sternly asked Selena to have all the mages use ice magic. She agreed and quickly flew into the sky. Selena raised her hand and used icy wind magic. Dense, dark clouds. Castile and the knights looked at the dark sky. The Duke laughed and exclaimed that this Rain really was a fool. The commander asked why Castile was talking like that. The Duke, smiling, replied that he sent the new recruits on a feint attack so that the protagonist would fire all his arrows, and this fool spent the mages' energy to withstand the new recruits and save arrows. When the enemy mages run out of strength, they will send their own to attack the city, and Essling will be easily captured. The soldiers exclaimed in admiration that the Duke was very smart, as expected from Castile. He managed to come up with such a clever plan. Castile imagined MC kneeling before him and exclaimed that Rain would soon become his prisoner. After some time, the soldiers looked at the many magicians in the sky. The knight asked in fear, "What's going on?" His comrades quickly ran back and shouted that the enemy had released magic. The soldier asked for help and shouted that he was not married yet. He did not want to die. The soldier grabbed the tree with his hands and asked not to cut it down. He quickly turned his head to the side and asked, "What's going on?" They said it was magic. The commander sternly asked, "What are they thinking?" He ordered them to take up arms and go into battle. The soldiers quickly ran to the attack. Selena flew up to MC and asked if the basic level of ice wind magic could really repel the enemy. Maybe they could release a little lightning magic? Rain replied that it was not necessary. Since ancient times, people have lost their fighting spirit for only two reasons: hunger and cold. The soldiers of the Orvis Empire can't even stand up straight, let alone attack the city. The soldiers, rubbing their bodies with their hands, shouted that it was too cold. He would freeze to death. They didn't want to fight anymore. The soldiers wanted to go home. The commander called them a pile of trash and barked, "What are they doing?" He, sitting on a horse, ordered them to attack the city and raise their weapons. The soldier, shaking, replied that it was too cold. Their hands were frozen, and they couldn't stand up anymore. They were hungry and cold. They had no strength left at all. It was better to retreat now. The captain ordered that the situation be reported to Castile immediately. The others needed to continue the attack. The assistant confidently agreed. After a while, a soldier, kneeling on one knee, said that this was news from the vanguard. Castile asked him to speak, and the soldier agreed. The soldier looked at his comrades eating food and wondered why they should freeze and starve outside while their comrades were enjoying themselves here. The soldier announced that the front line was unable to cope with the attack. Rain used icy wind magic to delay their army's attack. The soldiers were completely unable to hold their weapons due to hunger and cold. He begged the Duke to order a temporary retreat of the troops. Castile angrily slammed his fist on the table and called them fools. They were a bunch of freaks. A man was not worthy of being a noble soldier of the Orvis Empire. A kneeling soldier exclaimed that they were not afraid of death, but they had no strength at all because they had not eaten. Castile ordered the death of this useless man who dared to contradict him. The Duke sternly raised his fist and exclaimed that he would lead the attack himself. The commander yelled that there was no need to risk their lives. They all dreamed of laying down their lives for the Duke. Castile smiled and remarked that he did not object to their loyalty. He simply wanted them, the generals, to understand what a genius he, Lord Castile, was. After a while, Castile, sitting on his horse, stopped in front of the river. He sternly asked the mages to listen to him. The Duke commanded the use of earth magic to build a bridge across which the cavalry would pass unhindered. The mages agreed and swiftly channeled mana from their hands. Stone blocks formed in front of the river. They instantly grew, creating a bridge. Castile ordered all units to attack. He would reward anyone who captured Ryan alive. The soldiers rushed to attack. The knight exclaimed that it looked like the Orvis Empire was preparing for an official attack. The protagonist calmly asked Leah to order this trash thrown into the moat. At the same time, both passages on both sides of the moat need to be blocked. Leah confidently agreed with him. The workers poured the trash into the pipes leading to the moat. A dark liquid began to fill the water in the moat. After a while, the horses galloped rapidly along the path. The knight, Rosalind Holker, thought that they needed to hurry. They couldn't let anything happen to Lord Rhine. She remembered the past. Father exclaimed that the fall or rise of the Holker family was in her hands. Rosalind asked her father to be calm, because she would not allow the Lord to be harmed. The knight, sitting on a horse, asked the eldest miss to rest. They had been riding for 3 days. Even if she could endure it, the horses couldn't. Rosalind sternly asked how long it would take to reach Essling at this speed. The knight replied that it was only a day's ride to the city. Rosalind ordered the map to be unfolded in front of her. She wanted to see the route ahead. The mage agreed and asked Miss to take a look. Rosalind thought that the border fortress of Essling was probably surrounded by the Orvis Empire. MC must be trapped now. She had heard from her father that the Lord had increased the food supply in Essling a few days ago. Rosalind instantly pulled on the reins and stopped her horse. She called out to Knox and yelled that she knew he was spying on her. Rosalind exclaimed that she needed him to appear and they would discuss countermeasures. The knights were very surprised when they saw something. A hand emerged from the magical portal. Knox Old instantly emerged from the portal in front of Rosalind. The knight ordered to protect the lady and shouted, "Who is this?" Rosalind raised her hand in front of the knight. She asked if it was Knox. He calmly clarified that if she had something to say, she should speak quickly. Rosalind said she would send a detachment to reduce the Orvis Empire's food supply and take advantage of the situation to capture all the soldiers under Esling. She knows that Priscilla sent Knox to follow her, but now she needs his help. Knox clarified that his mission was to kill Rosalind if she harmed Lord Rain. He hadn't received orders to help her. Rosalind smiled and clarified, she knows, but none of them want anything to happen to the protagonist. Right? Knox turned his head to the side with displeasure and asked what she wanted from him. Rosalind said she would lead an army around Esling to attack the rear of the Orvis Empire army. Knox would block the waters at the top of the ditch near the border fortress and wait for her mage's signal, after which he would immediately direct the flow of water downwards. Rosalind was going to drown all the dogs of the Orvis Empire here. Meanwhile, in Warshala, the Elf Queen took the sheet and exclaimed that she hoped they could reach a consensus and try their luck together. She asked to speak and clarified what her comrade thought. Illyria sternly replied that humans were so greedy and cunning, they had no principles. She thought it was better not to deal with them. Elf, Salian asked the queen to remember that they couldn't feed all the elves on their own. They had to buy food from humans every winter. They couldn't refuse. The queen clarified that Illyria could also speak. Only she had seen the new mayor of Esling. Illyria replied that she thought the new mayor was sneaky and cunning, although no, he was a very smart man. She didn't know how MC achieved this, but she did what he said. They not only got food for this year's winter, but also saved money. Salian was surprised and asked, "Are there really such interesting people among humans?" Illyria remarked that it was strange. The tribe's scouts discovered that they were at war again a few days ago. She sees no point in fighting every autumn. The condition for the deal is the city manager's survival in this war. Otherwise, there is no deal. The queen asked Illyria to calm down and let her make the decision. What Salian said made sense. If the new ruler of Esling dies, there will be no deal. So she decided to go to the battlefield and see everything with her own eyes. After some time, the soldiers ordered to fire arrows. They cannot be allowed to climb the city wall. Selena asked fearfully, "Is everything okay now?" Reen asked them to take their time and replied that they need to wait for Castile to lead the soldiers. They can only use this method once. Castile cannot be allowed to escape. Selena confidently shouted that they must act now. She turned her attention to the soldiers who had climbed the wall. The knight joyfully exclaimed that they had taken the wall. Castile smiled and shouted that everything was ready. He raised his hand and ordered to attack and capture MC alive. Rain exclaimed that Castile had crossed the bridge. He raised his hand and ordered Selena to act. The knights quickly stood in front of the protagonist. The soldier resolutely ordered to kill the opponents quickly. They must not be allowed to approach Mr. Rhine. The protagonist called out to Selena and asked her to quickly release a fireball into the moat. Selena agreed and used low-level magic, a fire spell. She directed the fireball towards the moat. Castile fearfully asked the mages to be careful. The enemy is using fireball magic. This is their last counterattack. They must endure it. The mages quickly used high-level magic, barrier magic. They stopped the fireballs with a barrier. The soldier noted that they were wasting the mage's magical power. What if the enemy has a hidden plan? Castile smiled confidently and, laughing, shouted, "What kind of hidden plan could the enemy have? All the magic of the MC mages was used up by this icy wind. Is this fireball the last drop of magic that the protagonist's mages could use? If they can withstand the enemy's final counterattack, victory will be theirs." Fireballs flew towards the water at great speed. Castile laughed ominously and exclaimed that he told you the mages were out of strength. Even a simple fireball spell didn't reach its target. The soldiers enthusiastically noted that Castile was a true military genius. The Duke will conquer Esling, and then the rest of the empire will surrender. Castile said that this ruler is known as one of the two pillars of the empire. Like this child in front of them, a powerful explosion instantly thundered and destroyed the bridges. Castile looked at the flames in fear and screamed, "What is this? How is this possible? What kind of curse is this?" He fell into a stupor and wondered how such powerful magic could appear in the moat. The soldiers shouted, "What's going on? Why is everything on fire?" Castile wondered, how could this happen? He had already sent away all the soldiers. If they were all surrounded by fire, they would burn to ashes. This young man was not human. The Duke quickly looked at the protagonist and thought that MC was the devil. Rain wanted to burn 100,000 people alive. A soldier called out to Castile and asked him to order a retreat. Castile decisively raised his fist and ordered the mages to put out the fire immediately. The mages replied that they had no more magical powers. The last of their magic had just been used on the magical barrier. Selena wondered, was this magic already at the level of forbidden spells? Forbidden magic was created with just 2 barrels of oil? It didn't even take magic? The protagonist was watching what was happening, listening to cries for help. He put his hand to his head and thought, in order to prevent his people from ending up in this situation, the protagonist must develop the industry as soon as possible. MC headed for the exit and said that he was leaving the rest to Selena. She confidently agreed with the Lord. Selena raised her hand and ordered all the mages to listen. They must immediately repel all soldiers of the Orvis Empire. Flames engulfed the area near the gate. The commander called out to Castile and ordered him to come here. The Duke raised his hand, breathing heavily. After a while, Castile asked, "Where are the guard soldiers?" He raised his head and noticed a flash in the sky. The sword quickly plunged into the ground and the Duke fell to the floor. He asked in fear, "Who is it?" Rosalind sternly squeezed the hilt of the sword with her hand, and noted that, judging by his attire, he must be nobility of the Orvis Empire. She had been looking for him for a very long time. Castile shook with fear and clarified what she wanted to do. Rosalind ordered him to speak and asked where his main forces were. "Is Lord Rhine safe?" She hit Castile on the head with a rod several times with force. Castile grabbed his head with his hands and yelled that he would tell everything. The main part was burned to death by the protagonist's forbidden magic. "He is the Grand Duke of Castile. She shouldn't be in his face." Rosalind resolutely raised her fist and barked. How dare he tell her such an obvious lie? He takes her for a fool. Rosalind ordered to knock him down and beat him until Castile tells the truth. Sometime later in the tent, Rosalind asked how things were going. The knight replied that this freak is stubborn, insisting that he is the Grand Duke of Castile. He said that Lord Rain used a forbidden spell, burning his army of 100,000 people to death on the border of Esling. Rosalind slammed her fist on the table in rage and screamed that it was a curse. She ordered to continue beating Castile. Beat him until he tells the truth. Besides, let the army rest where it is, and when dusk comes, attack the border fortress and ease MC's suffering. The knight calmly agreed. Rosalind left the tent and thought that, judging by the words of this freak, there was an earthen bridge that they left during the attack on the city, which helped them get closer. But if they want to break into the fortress, they first need to lure them out of there, and then team up with the mage Miss Priscilla. If she bypasses the fortress and heads straight for Esling, Rosalind heard the rustling of leaves. She yelled that someone was approaching. The enemy was attacking. The knights quickly covered her and asked her to be careful. They ordered the enemy to leave. Their entire army is warned. They won't be able to attack unexpectedly. The elves instantly left. Rosalind wondered, are these elves? Are they in cahoots with the Orvis Empire? She confidently exclaimed that the elves had conspired with the Orvis Empire to harm the protagonist. Illyria screamed that this was ridiculous. It was the one she called Rain who asked the Elven Queen to meet with him. And now she had slandered them. The elves, Rosalind clarified. Did they think she would believe such a ridiculous lie? She was sure that they were actually accomplices of the Orvis Empire. Illyria screamed in fury. How dare Rosalind insult high-ranking elves? She ordered the elven archers to get ready. Rosalind ordered the swordsmen to raise their shields and parry the arrows. The queen instantly raised her hand and used elven magic, a spatial barrier. The queen asked the girl to calm down and clarified that she was here because a young man named Rain had written to her to discuss business. If the girl was his ally, then they did not need to fight. If the opponent is his enemy, then they will immediately return and talk after the battle. How about it? Rosalind sternly asked. What proof do they have? The queen asked Illyria to bring her a letter. Illyria handed over the letter and exclaimed that it was written and sent to them by the protagonist. Rosalind was surprised and wondered, is this really a letter from MC? The seals of the family crest are endowed with special magical imprints that no one can fake. She replied that she will believe them until she meets Rain. In the meantime, Rosalind will send someone to keep an eye on them at all times. The queen smiled and agreed, noting that precautions are beneficial for both of them. Rosalind ordered the knights to return and continue resting. The original plan remains unchanged. She ordered an assistant to send several people to keep an eye on these elves. If anything is wrong, they are to report immediately. The assistant calmly agreed with her. Illyria turned to Her Majesty and noted that they did not believe them at all. Why did the queen still want to bargain with them? The queen replied that if humans believed them, they would not be humans. She thought with fury that she hoped that this man named Rain would not fail her. The elves' ruined future must be changed. After some time, the knights shouted that the scouts had returned with a report. The flag on the border fortress was not the Orvis Empire, but still the Edgar families. Rosalind tensed and wondered, was this man telling the truth? There was no time to hesitate. No matter what happened, they must get to the protagonist's side as soon as possible. Rosalind decisively ordered the flag to be raised. No matter if there were Rain's troops in the border fortress, they must let them know that his allies have arrived. No one should stop after crossing the land bridge. They must hurry towards Esling. They must break into Esling tonight at any cost. At the same time, MC stands among numerous corpses of soldiers. He clenched his fist in anger and thought, what a huge workforce. They could be forced into a sweatshop. Reen tiredly put his hand to his forehead, and Leah turned to the master. She worriedly thought that the protagonist was truly kind. He was worried about the deaths of these invaders. Leah noted that MC shouldn't be sad about these invaders, because they deserved it. Reen replied that she misunderstood. He was sad because the knight immediately interrupted him and reported that cavalry was approaching from the Orvis Empire. Their raised flag resembled the flag of the Second Miss. After some time at the castle, the protagonist raised his hand and said that in the future, Esling will become an important part of the continent. As long as Her Majesty has the desire to invest in them, the Queen will become not only the builder of the legendary city, but also its founder. The Queen remarked that the business plan MC had talked about was indeed interesting, but it made no sense to the elves. She was used to coexisting with nature. They lived well without what the protagonist had talked about. Rain, smiling, raised his finger and exclaimed that this was not so. If these were Her Majesty's true thoughts, then she was thinking narrowly. Demand was never born on its own. it was created. The queen raised her hand and remarked that some of his human needs meant nothing to the elves. She apologized for talking too much. Many human empires had collapsed because of their own desires. Rain crossed his arms and said that she was right. The human empire would collapse because of desires. But desire is the impetus that motivates the world to progress. People wanted to fly in the skies, so they invented airplanes. People wanted to swim underwater, so they invented submarines. People wanted to explore the universe, so they invented spacecraft. One day, the queen will stand on a tall building and contemplate all living things. The protagonist guarantees that she will experience a satisfaction she has never known before. The queen was stunned and thought she didn't understand a word this man was saying. What planes and submarines? She calmly noted that his confidence was atypical for the people she had seen. But the protagonist must not forget that they, elves, are different from humans. For thousands of years, they have not been hostage to desires. Elves cannot change this for the sake of the trading districts MC spoke of. Ryan confidently agreed and said that as long as she has the desire to invest, the queen will have the opportunity to see a different future. The queen firmly believed that this is the future of the elves. If she unites with humans, she can change the future she has seen. The queen noted that the protagonist can indeed speak, but it is still not enough. She needs time to discuss this with her compatriots. MC agreed and clarified that he would be expecting her contributions at any time. Rain raised his hand and asked Leah to bring it. He handed the letter to the queen, and she asked what it was. MC replied that it was an invitation to the Essling Dam completion ceremony. It was a special place. He begged her to take the first step for the city's industry. At the same time, the knight, galloping swiftly on a horse, shouted that this was breaking news. Lord Rain was unharmed. He cleared the battlefield under the border fortress. Rosalind wondered, didn't the Orvis Empire bring an army of 100,000 people? Was the Duke really telling the truth? Did forbidden magic really help the protagonist? Never mind, she didn't have time to worry about it now. She needed to hurry to MC. After a while, the horses instantly began to stop in front of the Essling gates. Rosalind turned her attention to the gates and pulled the reins to stop her horse. She dismounted, and the knight asked the eldest miss to come here. After some time, in the castle room, Rosalind stood before the protagonist, who was sitting on the couch. She knelt down and introduced herself, explaining that she was a knight sent by Priscilla to assist MC. Rosalind hadn't made it to him when she was needed, and was asking for her punishment. Rain asked, his older sister asked her to come here. Rosalind confirmed this, and the protagonist asked, so why did she come from the Orvis Empire? Rosalind lowered her head and replied that they had received orders to come to their aid 3 days ago. She assumed MC had abandoned the border fortress and returned to Essling, so she ordered the army to surround it and block the Orvis Empire's retreat. Rain, astonished, clarified, they arrived here from his sister's lands in 3 days? That's hundreds of kilometers from here. How did they get here? They haven't built a railroad yet. Rosalind asked in confusion. What railroad? The protagonist grinned and replied that it didn't matter. They had worked hard, so it was better to rest first. Rosalind put her hand on her chest and noted that it wasn't difficult at all. Their Holker family must do this. Her stupid uncle had caused them trouble. Rosalind said sadly that she was Caesar's niece. She begged the Lord to give their family a chance. The protagonist could punish her however he wanted. Rosalind wouldn't resist. MC looked at her sternly and said nothing. After a while, Rosalind sat sadly on the chair, her head bowed. She thought that Ryan had left her here all day. Although Rosalind understood that it was difficult to earn his trust, she couldn't even meet him. What future awaited her family? The protagonist entered the room. He smiled and apologized for keeping her waiting. Rosalind, frightened, quickly stood up from the chair. MC raised his hand and asked her not to worry so much. He came to discuss something with her. Rosalind confidently agreed and thought that Ryan had an obligation to give her family a chance. The protagonist raised his hand, smiling, and asked if she would become one of his people. Rosalind became very embarrassed and yelled, what does that mean? The protagonist put his hand in his pocket and clarified that he was amazed by her strategy on the battlefield. The system window notified that Rosalind's leadership was 91, strategy 82, strength 87, magic 85, and loyalty 100. Her special attribute is swordsmanship. She is brave and unwavering. MC thought this was a high-level quality. He said that her courage to carry out a soldier maneuver and boldly lead the attack on the enemy makes him think that Rosalind is very talented. Rosalind confidently thanked him for the compliment and exclaimed that this is her duty. Ryan arrogantly clarified, does she wish to become his? Rosalind turned her head to the side and replied that she understood everything. She exclaimed with great embarrassment that if he wanted to use her to compensate for the damage, then she was ready to give him everything. MC tensely asked her to wait a minute and noted that something was wrong in this conversation. She misunderstood something, especially about compensating. He never thought about that. Rosalind instantly dropped to one knee and clarified that although her dream was to become a knight and serve Rain, if the protagonist wished to use her cursed body to compensate for the harm her uncle had done, Rosalind would not object. MC asked her to stop and said that she had misunderstood him. He wanted her to become his subordinate, and nothing more. Rosalind was surprised and asked what he was talking about. Reen smiled and clarified that he was asking if she wished to join his ranks. The protagonist will not hold Rosalind or her family accountable for the crimes committed by Caesar. MC immediately coughed. He sternly asked if she would serve as his knight. Rosalind thought with great happiness that she would become not the master's plaything but his knight. This had always been her dream. She lowered her head and exclaimed that it was a great honor for her to become Rain's knight. After some time, the protagonist wrote in a letter that the crisis in Essling had been resolved. The knight Priscilla had sent, Rosalind, was outstanding. MC picked up the letter and asked Leah to send it to his second sister tomorrow, and also send an invitation to the dam's completion ceremony. Leah agreed with the master, and Rain thought that they needed to quickly search for talents. The system window notified that 5 heroes with developed attributes needed to be cultivated. In the process, one of the 5 was Rosalind. Leah wondered what they should do with the Grand Duke of Castile, whom Rosalind's knight had captured. The protagonist was very surprised to remember him and asked where the Duke was. Leah replied that he was currently in the Essling dungeon. After some time in the dungeon, MC approached the prison cell and noted that they had met again. Castile snorted in irritation and exclaimed that the protagonist was finished. Rain sternly asked what the Duke meant. Wasn't Castile a prisoner now? The Duke wondered if his father hadn't told the protagonist. Obviously, mages who use forbidden magic cannot participate in ordinary people's wars, but yesterday, on the battlefield, MC broke this rule. Soon, all mages who use forbidden magic from across the continent will set out to hunt the entire Edgar family. Rain was surprised and clarified. Does the Duke mean Miss Selena? Castile smirked and, raising his hands, noted that Selena is simply a high-class mage. He's talking about the mage who used forbidden magic on the battlefield. The protagonist smiled and exclaimed that the Duke was talking about the explosion caused by the oil barrels. If the forbidden magic the Duke speaks of is an explosion, then he can only say that Castile is wrong. MC could create such an explosion countless times if he wanted. Castile grabbed the bars with his hands in rage and yelled that this was madness. Only forbidden magic could generate such power. A nobleman like the protagonist was not capable of generating such world-destroying power. MC calmly raised his hands and noted that it didn't matter whether it was forbidden magic or the power of destruction. It was all in the past. He only came here to ask the Duke something. Who was standing above Castile? What were they going to do? The Duke got scared and yelled that no one was behind him. The warriors of their Orvis Empire didn't need a reason to oppose the freaks from their empire. Rain said that the Duke made him laugh a lot. He looked through Essling's recordings. Every spring, Orvis crosses the border to provoke them, sparing no expense in their quest to seize their cities and lands. But Orvis never occupied them or even left a garrison. Then, in the fall, Castile for some reason immediately withdrew its troops. Does the Duke think such actions could be hiding something? Either Castile has a stupid emperor, or the Duke has other reasons for this campaign. Castile snorted furiously and exclaimed that it was because they didn't care about occupying lands like the protagonist. This was necessary for the Orvis Empire to show the world its strength. Ryan clarified. Or was the Duke testing something unknown? Castile froze in fear and barked that he didn't understand what MC was talking about. Rain asked the Duke to think about it carefully in the dungeon. He headed for the exit and thought that every year's invasion looked like a senseless drama. There must be a conspiracy behind this that he hadn't yet unraveled. We need to develop industry immediately. The protagonist feels deceived, and this brings little pleasure. 10 days later, in Selenda, the haven of the Silver Wave, Priscilla looked at her brother's letter. Priscilla asked Gwen to tell that fool Villas tomorrow that her brother is pleased with his daughter. Now, he can calm down. Priscilla's subordinate, Gwen, holding her hands behind her back, agreed with her mistress. Priscilla noted that this invitation letter spoke of the dam's completion ceremony. Does she know what kind of dam this is? Gwen disagreed and replied that her poor servant knew too little and lacked experience to understand the young master's brilliant wisdom. Priscilla smiled and suggested going to the land of Rhine in a few days to see this dam. Gwen calmly agreed, and Priscilla, raising her hand, asked the servant to help her find several girls Rosalind's age. She wants to see what type her brother likes. Sometime later, in the imperial palace of the Orvis Empire, the emperor of the Orvis Empire exclaimed that the capture of Grand Duke Castile was an attempt to lower the army's morale. Craven yelled that if Castile revealed the secret, an even greater disaster would occur. Who told him to act so fearlessly only to find himself in such a situation? The emperor became extremely angry and ordered him to stop. If so, then why continue to take responsibility? He needed a solution, not arguments. Craven turned to his majesty and asked if perhaps the emperor could send someone to Essling to try to negotiate with them. The emperor's aide angrily called him a freak. How could his Orvis Empire negotiate peace with such barbarian lands? The comrade agreed and shouted that if they bowed to the Caledorial Empire, it would dishonor their empire. Craven calmly noted that if Castile revealed all the secrets, their plans for all these years would be ruined. He raised his hand and asked his majesty to make the right decision. The emperor replied that peace negotiations could be considered, and asked if Craven had any candidates. This man must not only be of high status to represent the dignity of the Orvis Empire, but also with sufficient courage and wisdom. Craven was surprised and thought that His Majesty's words were so strange. Something as simple as peace negotiations would not cause difficulties. One only needed to demand minimal compensation. Is His Majesty really thinking? The Emperor, raising his hand, interrupted his thoughts and noted that, judging by his expression, Craven had considered a suitable candidate. Craven clarified that he would like to recommend someone. Miss Vilvina, the only daughter of Duke Richard. People shouted that Craven had gone crazy. Miss Vilvina's father, Duke Richard, was recently imprisoned for insulting His Majesty. The Emperor smirked and thought that this guy was very smart. He always knew what he wanted to do. The Emperor asked why Craven was recommending the daughter of a criminal. Craven replied decisively that he recommended her for 3 reasons. First, Vilvina is Duke Richard's only daughter. Her noble position could demonstrate their sincerity. Second, he had heard that, although she had only just come of age, she was a good talker and decisive. Third, and most importantly, Vilvina would take this opportunity to atone for her crimes and prove herself so that their Majesties would forgive her father. The young man turned his head to the side and noted that Lord Craven's words made sense. The Emperor said that he would then leave it to Craven. He smiled sarcastically and asked the Lord to ensure the safety of Duke Richard's only daughter on this trip. Craven lowered his head in fear and agreed with His Majesty. Sometime later, at the Orvis Empire Castle, a hired assassin was kneeling. The Emperor asked if the mercenary knew what to do with Vilvina and Castile on the way back. The mercenary asked His Majesty not to worry and said that they would definitely die on the territory of the despicable Caledorial Empire. The Emperor raised his hand in horror and clarified that the envoy of the Orvis Empire was killed by the Caledorial mercenary. It seems that now he has another reason for war. After some time on the street, the sellers shouted that these are fresh fruits and fish. People need to look at this. The seller called out to the protagonist and asked if MC came to buy something. Ryan laughed and replied that he just went out into the city to walk around and see if they needed anything. The seller, smiling, noted that thanks to the protagonist, their lives had become much better. The guy agreed and added that before they lived worse than animals, but now they have a normal life. The seller called him a fool and yelled that if the guy can't talk, he should talk less. The protagonist, laughing, noted that they were so busy. The sellers said goodbye to the master and Ryan, sitting on a chair, raised his hand. The protagonist noticed the people in the crowd and checked their attributes. The system window announced that this was Ivan Cobb. His age was 43, strength 28, magic 12, strategy 18, leadership 20, and loyalty 82. Marina White, age 27, strength 15, magic 25, leadership 18, strategy 22, and loyalty 80. Thomas Rhett, age 38, strength 33, magic 20, leadership 28, strategy 25, and loyalty 75. MC let out a tired sigh and thought that it turned out that it was too difficult to find a talent with high attributes among ordinary people. He had been walking around different places for several days. Ryan still hadn't found a single suitable talent. Should he ask his second sister and older brother for talents? No. The lands of his older brother and second sister were also facing difficulties. He should only rely on himself. Besides, the second sister sent MC Rosalind, so he can't be so greedy anymore. Rain closed his eyes and strained heavily, and Leah turned to the master. She hugged him and noted that the protagonist was too tired after 3 days. Leah asked him to rest a little. She sent people to post various leaflets around the city, asking those who thought they had talent to come to MC. Ryan, tired, thought that those who recommended themselves really did have talent. They are very good factory workers. It's just that his factory can't open at all. The elven investment hasn't progressed, and they need another half a month to build the dam. Forcing mages to study chemistry is a crime against nature. This stupid system also gave him an amazingly difficult task. It's too difficult. The merchant yelled that how dare a person return to the city. Ryan quickly turned his head to the side and looked at Armando Cresta, 32 years old. Armando, smiling, asked the merchant not to say that, and to trust that this time there would be absolutely no problems. The protagonist noticed the system window, which reported that Armando's leadership was 56, strategy 95, strength 33, magic 89, and loyalty 50. His specialties were alchemist and master of medicine. The MC was overjoyed and thought he'd found talent. Armando pointed to the flask and said, "He promises it will work this time. A little drop in the food, and the fruit will be fresh all year long." The man irritably ordered him to stop talking nonsense and called Armando a liar. Last time he tricked him into buying an insect repellent, and he lost a box of apples. Armando said last time there was a hitch. His repellent is not suitable for soft fruits like apples. The merchant started pushing him and said, "No need to lie here. You can't fool him." Armando asked, "No need to push. Let him listen to what he has to say." MC looked at him and thought, he would never have thought such talent would be in such a place. Leah stood behind and thought, did young Master Ryan really pay attention to such a nonsensical alchemist? She will not allow such a person to deceive young Master Rain. Armando squatted down and thought, he hadn't hit the jackpot today. He was so hungry. MC approached him and extended his hand. He said hello and said he was very interested in his potion. Would he enlighten him about it? Armando thought happily. He had struck gold. He shook Ryan's hand and said, "Young man." He knew at first sight that he was an expert. His friend, what potion does he want? He has everything. MC asked who he was. Why had he never seen him in Essling? Armando smiled and said, his name is Armando. He's an alchemist and very rarely comes into town. Ryan asked if he was in town today to advertise his wares. The guy smiled and replied, well, if his friend needs anything, he can tell him, and he, Armando, promises to make a potion that will satisfy him. Leah put her hand to her lips and said, young Master Rain, you shouldn't trust people like alchemists. Most of them are liars. MC asked not to worry. It's still unclear who will deceive whom. Leah looked at him puzzled, and he asked how he sells this batch of potion. Armando took out a flask and said, his friend, he really knows his stuff. This bottle can make things glow at night. This potion allows the drinker to run faster. He blushed slightly and said embarrassedly, this potion can bring him and his girlfriend pleasure all night long. MC replied discontentedly, this is all low-grade merchandise. He folded his arms across his chest and asked, is there anything better? Armando said, his friend, he may look down on him, but if he turns his nose up at his potions, he won't hold back. Leah frowned in irritation and asked, won't he hold back? Armando tilted his head and said, his friend, the look his maid gives him, is a little scary. Ryan frowned and said, his bottle of potion that makes objects glow at night is actually zinc silicate beryllium phosphor, which is toxic and has low luminescence efficiency. Instead, he suggests he use calcium halophosphate phosphor. It has high luminescence, is non-toxic, and most importantly, is cheaper. Armando frowned and asked, how is that possible? Where did he learn the recipe? It's his most secret recipe. He's the only one in the world who knows it. MC asked again. The most secret recipe? That's ridiculous. It's basic chemistry. If his so-called alchemy is at that level, then he thinks there's nothing special about it. Armando pointed his finger at him and asked, basic? He's kidding. Where did he hear all that? He must have been rummaging through his alchemy notes. Ryan grinned and said he was making him laugh to death. What was the point of reading the notes of an alchemist who would go hungry if he didn't sell his potions? Armando, he'll give him one chance. He offered to swear allegiance to him, and he would set him on the true path of understanding alchemy. Armando frowned and asked again, swear allegiance, who was he? Leah said, the new ruler of Aisling stood before him. Lord Rain Edgar, second son of the Grand Duke of Aldarian from the Caledorial Empire. Armando said he thought it was a small fortune, but it turns out it's a big one. He, Armando, would rather starve to death than become the nobility's dog. MC frowned and said, it seemed he wasn't satisfied with his personality. Armando spread his arms and said, this humble servant dares to be dissatisfied with the master, but still, there's no point in getting angry at the dog. Leah ordered him to apologize to Master Ryan immediately. Otherwise, Armando asked, otherwise what? Will she kill him? The nobility solves its problems in a very primitive way. Leah asked, does he want to die? MC ordered her to stop. He turned to Armando and said, he doesn't know what displeasure the nobility had brought him before, but he's interested. He'll give him a chance. He can give him a developed and comprehensive knowledge of chemistry and physics, and he'll have the opportunity to change the world. Armando continued to look at MC with distrust. Rain said, of course, if he wants to vegetate somewhere in the slums of Essling, he won't object. Armando shouted, no way. All they, the gentlemen, think only of their own pockets. He'll never have anything to do with them. The system window reported that Armando's loyalty to the Lord was falling from 50 to 32 points. MC thought this was bad. Not only had he failed to convince him, but he had even turned him against himself. Armando said, Armando, he won't believe a single word the nobility said. Suddenly, a cry rang out. Brother Armando! Brother Armando! He rushed to Alina and screamed in fear. What is she doing here? She doesn't belong here. She should hide quickly. Alina asked why. Armando replied, this man, he's an evil lord. He'll hurt her. Alina happily said, it's Brother Ryan. MC crouched down and asked in surprise, does she know him? Alina answered, yes. Mom says they have a good life thanks to Brother Rain. MC smiled and asked, did her dad build a dam? Alina answered, yeah. Irina and her mom urged Dad to work hard for Brother Rain every day. Suddenly, Armando shouted, he is such a malicious lord. He is exploiting the people of Essling. Rain frowned and asked how he came to such a decision. Armando pointed his hand at Alina and shouted, she is wearing such rags. It is obvious that he is using and oppressing her, isn't it? The nature of the nobility has not changed. Leah asked indignantly, how dare he? Lord Ryan cares about the people of all of Essling above all else. How dare he slander him like that? Alina clenched her fists and shouted indignantly, little brother Armando, what nonsense is he talking about? Little brother Rain, he is a good ruler. He gave everyone not only work, but also food and houses, so that no one would go hungry or freeze. There is no need to talk nonsense if he doesn't understand anything. MC hugged her and said, Armando, Alina, and the others cannot wear good clothes mainly because the light industry is not developed yet. When this develops, people from all over Essling will be able to wear beautiful clothes. Armando said, although he doesn't understand what the light industry is, he is firmly convinced that no lord will care about the people. He corrupts the nobility and is just trying to line his wallets. He is not interested in watching the nobility pretend to be good lords. Alina, she needs to be more careful with them too. He turned away, and Alina began to stomp in anger. MC thought, no, he can't let this guy get away. Such talent cannot be lost. Ryan followed him, when suddenly he stopped and narrowed his eyes, asking what happened. He fell to the ground and Leah screamed, young Master Rain! Young Master Rain! After a while, he opened his eyes and saw Leah next to his bed. She happily said, young Master Rain. He finally came to his senses. MC asked her not to worry, he's okay. Leah asked, How can he be okay? He's been overworking himself. He hasn't had enough rest lately and he had to go out and look for talent himself. He was so tired today that he passed out. Reen extended his hand to hers and apologized for making her worry. He'll be more careful in the future. By the way, where's Armando? Leah replied that after he fainted, she immediately sent him to the estate. This alchemist Armando, he started to leave, but returned after he saw that he had fallen. MC asked in surprise, has Armando returned? Leah hugged MC and said, yes, he gave him medicine, saying that it would cure his ailment, and left. Rain asked, is it his medicine that eased his fever? Leah smiled and said, of course not. How could she give Mr. Ryan a medicine recommended by someone of unknown origin? She placed the medicine prescribed by Armando on the young master's table. The young master was cured by the town doctor. MC said he would go and take a look at the medicine he had prepared. Leah jumped up and asked young master Rain to wait. She would bring it right now. MC looked at it and said, the color and texture looked quite professional. Tomorrow he would find a doctor and ask him how good the medicine was. Leah asked, young Master Rain, does he really want to hire him? It seems he is hostile to the nobility and terribly rude. MC said, of course. He is not only a real talent, but also a rare genius. He thought about it. The problem is that he is biased against the lords. It would be good to know the reason. After some time, Armando returned home and picked up a framed photograph. He stroked the photograph with his hand and said, teacher, today I met a strange nobleman. He was not only able to analyze his chemical formula at first sight, but also explained many things he didn't understand. Even Alina likes him very much. But don't worry, teacher. Those nobles will never deceive him. He will definitely complete her research and take revenge for it. He will make those greedy nobles pay for everything. Liesl Grant was the most outstanding alchemist in Essling 15 years ago. She was not only a genius in the field of alchemy, but also an idealist. She firmly believed that alchemy should serve the people, not the authorities. Liesl took in the homeless Armando. She not only raised him, but also passed on her knowledge of alchemy. The relationship between Armando and Liesl was warmer than that of a teacher and student. He treated her like a mother. Liesl taught him not only potions and how to construct complex mechanical devices, but also how to find a balance between humanity and morality. At that time, the study of alchemy caused discontent among the Essling nobility. The nobles broke into Liesl's house with their guards, stole the results of her research, and killed her for studying forbidden alchemy. Liesl died in an accident. Armando was only 15 at the time. Afterward, he collected all the notes and unfinished research left by Liesl and vowed to finish her work. Currently, Ayuria wiped away her tears and said, Armando still bears the heavy burden of his past and his lonely responsibility. Rain said, Ayuria, her story is very touching, but it doesn't solve his problem. Does she know where Armando is now? Ayuria asked irritably. Young Master Rain, can't you show a little sympathy? MC replied, you can't get enough of sympathy, and it can't solve the problem. People always have to look ahead. No matter what happened yesterday, after sunrise, they still have to do their work as usual. Ayuria waved her hand and said, he must have gone to Liesl's old house, the place he visits most often. There, he not only studies her notes, but also stores her research equipment. MC snapped his fingers and said, how simple it is. Now that they know where he is, they will go there and not waste time. By the way, does she know what Liesl was studying? Ayuria put her hand to her chin and said, she remembers, it was called. She said thoughtfully, something about steam. MC's eyes widened in surprise and asked, what? He turned around and asked, what did she say? He ordered her to repeat it. He grabbed the nun and ordered her to repeat it. Ayuria said, something about steam. She can't remember the details. What's the matter? Rain shouted. Ayuria, if what she remembered is the same as what he thinks, then from today on they will be able to change the way the world lives and works. Ayuria said, how wonderful. She heard that it was just a toy or something like that. Rain grabbed her hand and ordered her to lead him there immediately. Ayuria said, she got it. She asked not to pull her. She was already coming. MC thought, it must be a steam engine. If Liesl really studied it, then she should have detailed drawings and experiment records. The steam engine was too ancient for him in his past life, and he never studied it in detail. He only knew the theory and some historical facts. As a mechanical engineer, he has an almost innate understanding of mechanical parts. He always wanted to recreate the steam engine in this world, but he always lacked the actual drawings and the basic idea. If he can get the notes Liesl left behind, he will be able to unravel her research and restore the steam engine. From this moment on, the industrial era begins. After some time, Armando was sitting near the house and assembling an engine. A voice rang out, Armando, is he here? He quickly began to cover it up and thought he must not show what the mistress left behind under any circumstances. Armando approached MC and asked, what are they doing here? They are not welcome here. Rain entered the area and asked where the notes his teacher left were. He wanted to see her research. Armando ran after him and shouted. Although he does not know where he found out about the notes, he advises him to give up this idea. He will never give them his teacher's notes. Ayuria said, Armando, they did not come to steal them. Young Mr. Rain simply came to see if there was anything left in Miss Liesl's notes that could help everyone in the city. Suddenly, Armando pulled out a knife and ordered them to get out. This is no place for vile nobles. Leah stood behind and thought, she can't let this idiot hurt Mr. Rain. She walked towards Armando, when suddenly MC stopped her and told her to leave it to him. Armando, he's such a fool. He can't even imagine what a steam engine is, let alone its true significance. Armando asked, what? MC frowned and asked, Does he think he'll fulfill Liesel's last wish? No, he'll ruin her great discovery. Armando screamed. Who does he think he is? Who is he to lecture him? He doesn't understand her research at all. Ryan waved his hand and offered him a bet. Armando asked again. A bet? What bet? MC replied. If he makes the alchemical apparatus Liesel left behind work, he'll have to obediently work for him. And if he fails, he'll leave Essling immediately and never set foot in it again. So what? Armando laughed loudly and asked, is he kidding me? He made him laugh out loud. A young nobleman who can't tell the difference between alchemical potions dares to claim that he can make his teacher's property work? Ryan spoke up. Judging by his answer, he agreed to the terms of the deal. Armando said, okay, he accepts his deal, but that's not enough. If he loses, he will not only leave Essling, but also kneel before his teacher's grave and ask for forgiveness. He dares to agree? Ayuria screamed, Armando, this is too much. Young Master Ryan has no ill intentions against him. Armando asked, what will he say, young nobleman? Will he make a bet? MC replied, no problem. He accepts his terms. If he loses, he will personally apologize to Liesel. Now he asked to let him look at the steam engine that Liesel left behind. He grinned evilly and thought, as soon as he fixes the steam engine, he will obediently go and light the boiler. He will see how mercilessly he will exploit it. Armando removed the cloth from the engine and said, this is what Professor Liesel left. He asked to be careful not to break it. Leah wondered, is the young master so interested in alchemy? Ayuria thought, this is such a strange thing. What was it used for? MC looked at the invention and thought, indeed, this is a steam engine. A real steam engine. He screamed loudly, brilliant, brilliant. Liesel, she is a real genius. Leah asked, young Master Ryan, the things Liesel invented, are they really that amazing? Reen cried out, of course. In any world, the person who created a steam engine must be considered a genius. Armando folded his arms contentedly and said, of course. Professor Liesel is different from other alchemists with an undeserved reputation. She was a great person. MC asked, did he live here only to keep this mechanism alive, right? Armando answered, yes. But Professor Liesel didn't tell him how to make the mechanism work, and there was nothing written about it in her research notes. Ryan said that he would then disassemble the outer shell to check the internal mechanism and see if there were any mechanical problems. Armando screamed, is he crazy? How dare he say that he wants to disassemble the machine? If everything can't be put back together, the professor's discovery will be destroyed. MC turned around and asked who he thinks he's talking to. There isn't a mechanism in the world that he can't fix. He ordered to bring a screwdriver or something like that. Armando asked in surprise, what is a screwdriver? Ryan grabbed his head and asked, brother, is he kidding him? He doesn't even know what a screwdriver is. Then how are these parts connected? Armando replied, he used magic. Why doesn't he know about such simple things? All the parts were made by the blacksmith Mr. Dwarven and ordered by Professor Liesel. This device required a lot of experience from her. A spoiled young master like him is not capable of understanding this. MC said, okay, since there is no screwdriver, Leah, let her give him her knife. Leah lifted her skirt and said, yes. Ryan took the knife in his hands and began to unscrew the part. After a while, he said, so beautiful and neat. She was such a genius. He widened his eyes in surprise and thought, what? Why are there missing parts? He turned around and asked, Armando, where are the parts inside? Armando widened his eyes in surprise and thought, how did he know there were parts inside? He frowned and asked, what the hell is he talking about? This is a machine. Where are those separate parts? What? It doesn't work anymore. If he admits defeat, then right now he will take him to bow to the professor's grave. Ryan pointed an irritated finger towards the engine and ordered not to try to fool him. He knows that the main part that controls the operation of the entire machine should be here. He ordered to speak. Where did it go? Armando lowered his head and spoke. The nobleman took the insides of the machine. MC asked again, nobleman? Why does he need a set of gears? Armando answered, these parts were forged from a very rare type of dragon crystal ore. When the nobleman found out about this, he forcibly took it, grinded it up, and created a statue of himself from it. MC widened his eyes and asked, a statue? He ground up these main parts just to forge proof of his own stupidity. Who is this idiot nobleman? Let him tell him his name. Armando replied, he's a big man. He would not dare insult him. Ryan frowned and asked again, are there people he does not dare insult? He ordered to speak. He wants to see the one who dared to hinder the progress of his industrialization. Armando hesitated and then said, it's Duke Oscar. Ayuria asked in surprise, what, is it him? Rain turned around and asked, Ayuria, does she know where this duke comes from? She replied, Duke Oscar was a minor nobleman in Essling. Oscar's achievements in alchemy when he was young were astounding. Later, he even won the Imperial Alchemy competition and was highly praised by the Emperor. The Emperor not only gave him many resources, but also awarded him the title of Duke. He was given lands. MC asked, where are his lands? Ayuria answered, in Granzel, on the upper right side of Essling. Leah said, young Master Rain, the Granzel region is part of the domain of Grand Duke Teleros Elroy. This territory is not under the jurisdiction of the Edgar family. MC frowned and asked again, Teleros Elroy? He remembers his father saying that not all was well between him and Grand Duke Elroy. Leah replied. Yes, young Master Reen, his father's political views and Elroy's were different. They even clashed several times in the Imperial Council. This is one of the thought-out strategies for balancing the empires. Rain replied, good, he is not worried about such problems now. Duke Oscar, right? That's very good, he will remember that. For crushing the gears, he will make him pay tenfold, 100-fold. Ayuria rushed towards him and asked, young master, is he going to conflict with Duke Oscar? It's too dangerous. MC asked again, dangerous? He should be afraid, since he destroyed such a priceless thing. He will pay for it. Armando asked, is he really going to oppose Duke Oscar? MC asked Armando not to worry. Not only will he make the steam engine work again, but he will also show Duke Oscar its true value. Since the main parts inside are destroyed, maybe there are some plans for them left in Liesl's notes. Armando answered, no, the professor did not leave this plan in the alchemy notes, but he remembers that the professor was supposed to discuss the manufacture of these parts with the dwarven blacksmith. Rain asked, so the dwarven blacksmith knows about them? Armando grabbed his head and said yes, but he went to him many times. He did not want to see him. MC put a hand on his shoulder and said, since he did not want to meet him, he will try. Armando told him not to get his hopes up. This guy has a strange character. After a while, a loud order was heard to get out. He does not have time for their entertainment, little rascals. Ayuria said, Uncle Bram, young Master Rain has done a lot for the people of Essling. He cannot treat him like this. Bram turned around and said, scoundrel nobleman. He knows what he did. He killed a few corrupt nobles and solved the food problem, right? Ayuria nodded her head and said, yes, 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 young Master Rain. He is an unusually good ruler and loves his people like his own children, Uncle Bram. Bram asked discontentedly, why is she praising him? That's his duty as a ruler. It's the same as him, a blacksmith, forging iron for others. Ayuria tried to answer him, but MC waved his hand and said, that's right. As a ruler, he must manage his lands well and provide the people with enough food and clothing. That's why he's here today. Bram frowned and thought, how can this boy say such things? He said, if that's the case, then they came to ask him for something. Ryan replied, yes, he needs the blueprint for the gear Liesl made for the steam engine. Of course, it would be even better if he could make the same gear for him. Bram irritably pointed his finger at the exit and ordered him to get out of here immediately. He will not give him such a terrible thing. MC asked why. Bram replied, those gears killed Liesl. If he had not insisted that she needed the dragon crystal ore for safety, she would not have gotten into trouble and been killed by those noble idiots. He will not do this for anyone else. Suddenly, Armando's voice was heard asking the old man to stop. He just said that a blacksmith should forge iron for people. Two-faced idiot. Bram displeasedly ordered him to shut up. He said no fighting. Period. Even if he has dragon crystal ore, it won't work. MC asked to wait a minute, Mr. Bram. He keeps talking about dragon crystal ore. He understands this to mean that gears made from dragon crystal ore can keep Liesl's machine running? Bram folded his arms and asked, you scoundrel, what is he trying to say? MC replied, he's trying to say that his blacksmithing abilities can't be relied upon. Is it really impossible to forge the gears needed for Liesl's device from ordinary iron ore? Bram slammed his fist on the anvil and called MC a stupid boy. He ordered him to stop talking nonsense. Only the ancient dragon race is capable of smelting ordinary iron ore into a liquid state. Ryan spoke. The ancient dragon race. He thought about it as he thought. He turned to Uncle Bram and asked, the temperature in his furnace is not enough to smelt iron ore, right? Bram said displeasedly, boy, there is no furnace like this on the entire continent that can smelt iron ore. He didn't know? MC turned around and asked, would he believe him if he said he could create a furnace capable of smelting iron ore? Bram closed his eyes and ordered him to stop bragging. Boy, if he could build such a furnace, the level of forging in the entire empire would be turned upside down. How can he, a guy from a family of lords, speak such big words? Ryan suggested not to mention whether they were big words. If he could build a furnace capable of smelting iron ore, would he forge Liesl's gears? Bram cried out, okay, kid, if he really could make such a furnace, he'd agree to help him with the gears. MC smirked and thought, finally, he'd made him agree. He said that, so they made a deal. Bram opened the door and said that if he lost, he'd get out of here immediately. He slammed the door behind him, and MC thought, the melting point of iron ore is 1,538 degrees Celsius. The temperature in this furnace is clearly far from that. The secondary oxygen supply system design is missing on the side, so the fuel effect cannot reach its maximum. MC grabbed a hammer from the table and headed towards the furnace. He hit it with the hammer, after which everyone screamed, young Master Rain. Ayuria asked in fear, what is he doing? Armando screamed, have you gone crazy? He destroyed the old man's furnace. How will he make parts for it now? Rain asked not to worry, he didn't destroy it. Those two holes are the secondary oxygen supply system channels that he made specially. With this, the fuel combustion efficiency will at least double, and the temperature will be able to reach the level necessary for smelting iron. Ayuria asked, will this really work? Could such simple changes really make the furnace reach the required temperature? Ryan asked, not to underestimate the power of science. He suggested adding fuel and trying. This furnace will definitely melt iron ore, Bram walked inside and said, "Kid, iron ore is hard." He threw aside the crate of ore and rushed towards the furnace, yelling loudly, "Idiot! He even broke his furnace." He asked irritably, "Does he even realize how much effort he put into doing this? He's gonna kill him today." MC replied, "Bram, he knows he's angry now, but he guarantees this furnace will melt the iron ore." Bram asked, "Kid, does he think smelting is a game? Does he really think he knows more than an old man? Does he even know how hard iron is? A regular furnace can't even reach that temperature. And now he's punched 2 holes in this one, and the temperature in the furnace will be even lower." Ryan waved his hand and said, "Anyway, the iron ore is here. There's plenty of fuel. He just needs to put everything inside and see if the furnace works." Bram replied, "Okay, he'll see what kind of tricks he's pulling. If this doesn't melt the iron ore, he'll beat him up." After a while, everyone watched intently as the ore melted in the furnace. Bram cried out loudly, "How can this be?" Ayuria asked in surprise, "Did it really melt? The iron ore really melted." Armando screamed, "It can't be. What kind of horror is going on with this furnace?" MC asked, "Mr. Bram, how is it?" Bram shook and started saying, This, man, how did he do that? How did this furnace melt iron with just 2 holes?" MC replied, "It works on pneumatic principles. If he wants to know about it, he'll take the time to tell you leisurely. Now can he forge the gears Liesel left for him?" Bram sighed and replied, "Okay kid, he win. Since the furnace is working now, the old man will forge the gears for him again. But he'll be honest if that nobleman comes again." Rain asked him not to worry. If he doesn't look for him, he'll go look for him himself. After a while, they returned to Liesel's house, and MC didn't have the gear in his hand. He thought this was the main part of the steam engine. Long live the industrial era. Leah asked, "Young Master Rain, even though this gear looks pretty solid, will it be able to withstand the work of the steam engine? If it breaks, something will happen that might injure him." Ayuria said, "Yes, young Master Ryan. Maybe she should go to her clan members and ask if they have dragon crystal ore." MC asked not to worry. Liesel used dragon crystal ore because she was not perfectly familiar with industrialization. Armando asked not to speak rudely about his teacher. MC asked him to think about himself. Since he had fixed the steam engine, then, in accordance with their deal, he must obediently become his subordinate. Armando displeasedly ordered him to say so when he fixes it. MC inserted the gear inside and said, "Now they will witness a miracle." Rain moved the lever and smoke came out of the pipes. Ayuria said happily, "It works. Young Master Ryan, this thing actually worked." Armando stood motionless, steam surrounding him on all sides. With tears in his eyes, he said, "Teacher Liesel." He remembered how she told him, "Her boy, quickly come here." Armando followed her and asked Teacher Liesel to wait for him. She laughed happily and taught him, and sometimes hit him on the head with her fist. She said discontentedly, "Fool." Soon she told him once, and he continues to assemble it incorrectly. Her boy, if they succeed, people will be very happy. In the last minutes of her life, when she was bleeding, she said, "Armando, she will leave this machine to him." Now Armando fell to his knees and said, "Teacher, her last wish, her dream has come true." Ayuria said, "Young Master Ryan." He asked to let him cry a little. These tears are emotions that he has been suppressing for years. 3 hours later, Bram arrived at Liesel's house and said he didn't expect that he could actually fix that thing. "It's just a steam engine." Ayuria asked, "Yes, Mr. Ryan, what can this thing do besides steam?" Bram asked, "Can this broken thing really only float, stand here and scare people?" MC replied, "A steam engine is not just a smoking thing, it is the foundation of an industrial society." Bram's eyes widened in surprise and asked, "The foundation of an industrial society? What does that mean?" MC replied, "It can make gears turn, powering more machines, factories, textile machines, or means of transportation. Even future military vehicles. The steam engine will play an irreplaceable role for them. The greatest invention of mankind, boiling water." Ayuria said admiringly, "Young Mr. Ryan, this is amazing." Bram said, "It sounds impressive. Is it really as wonderful as he said?" MC said, "They will soon understand the true meaning of this. From now on, he will introduce them to the world of industrialization step by step, and let them see the power of industry." Suddenly, a loud cry was heard. "Young Master Ryan." Rosalind descended to the ground and said, "Young Master Rain, Lady Priscilla has just arrived on this land." Rain said happily, "Second sister is here." He began rubbing his palms and thought, just in time, the dam is almost finished. While he has this opportunity, he will ask second sister to invest some money. Rosalind said, "Young Master Rain, Lady Priscilla asked her to tell you that she has prepared a gift especially for him. Please let him return immediately." MC happily asked, "A gift? What is it?" He thought, if it is gold or something like that, then he will not have to ask for money. Rosalind replied, "It is a group of young, barely legal girls." Rain looked at her, puzzled. After a while, a joyful cry was heard in the estate of the lord of the city of Essling Rhine. Priscilla hugged him and said she missed him so much. MC replied, "Sister, he missed her very much too. But first, he needs to ask a very important question." He pointed his finger to the side and asked, "What are those girls doing here?" Priscilla asked, "What's wrong? Is there no one among them that he likes?" MC replied, "That's not the point. She knows that because of their arrival, people started looking at him strangely." Priscilla asked, "Really? They dare to disrespect the ruler?" MC thought he is doomed. Leah believes that he is a pervert. He put his hand to his lips and said, "Sister, Leah has a very wrong expression now. She is always very gentle with him. And now she has an expression like she is going to kill him." Priscilla put her hand on his shoulder and asked, "Alice has an opinion about his behavior, which means he is very dear to her, right?" MC shouted loudly, "Sister, he is really worried about her train of thought." Please make her stop joking. Let her quickly tell him why she brought so many people. Priscilla adjusted her hair and said, okay, since he is so nervous, she will tell him the truth. It's because of his letter. Rain asked puzzledly. His letter? What letter? Priscilla took out the letter and said, this letter. This one says that he has his eye on Rosalind. She was just concerned about her brother's happiness. She thought he should have a choice, so she brought several different types of girls to find out his preferences. Rain ordered them to wait. When did he say that he has his eye on Rosalind? This is a misunderstanding. Priscilla chuckled and said, it seems she misunderstood. But since they are talking about Rosalind, she really is good. Is he sure he doesn't want to choose her? She looked out and asked, does she mind if Rain marries other girls? MC ordered his sister to stop talking nonsense. Leah said, Miss Priscilla is joking. Leah is just Master Rain's young servant. She has no right to comment on such things. Only young Master Rain decides which women young Master Rain wants to marry. MC grabbed his head and asked Leah not to pay attention to this nonsense. Priscilla looked at Leah's hands shaking with anger and thought, better not to tease. She said, okay, the jokes are over. Gwen, let her take these girls downstairs so they can rest first. Gwen bowed and replied, yes, Miss Priscilla. After a while, in the office, Ryan said, the Esling Dam will be completed in a few days. This dam can not only control the flow of water, but also irrigate the surrounding rural fields. It even has the potential to develop a hydroelectric project. Priscilla asked puzzledly, a dam? Power generation? What is that? Is it part of some kind of magic? MC grabbed his head and muttered, the energy of the water is used to run a mechanical device. This causes an effect that can provide energy. Priscilla still didn't understand anything, so she asked, Rain, is he saying that it can solve the food problem? Rain answered, yes, he knows. It sounds abstract, but it's not magic. It's not mechanics. It's a different technical system. Priscilla asked, a different technical system? How did he know about that? She remembered that he preferred learning swordsmanship to reading. Is she right? Who is he? What happened to her brother? MC thought, horror. He forgot about that. When he transformed, he was seriously injured for some reason. Come to think of it, it could have been an accident during a sword fight. He must immediately think of a way to get out of this. He waved his hand and said, sister. What is she saying? He is her brother. After he came to his senses a month and a half ago, his body hurt so much that he could only spend time reading books at home. That was when he discovered this for himself. Priscilla thought, right, Alice wrote the same thing to her in her letter. After Ryan came to his senses, he started reading books like crazy because of his physical condition. She asked, was it a book from the family library? Why didn't she pay attention? What did this book look like? MC showed Liesel's notes and shouted, sister, it looked like this book. Priscilla picked up the book and thought, what strange knowledge. She said, he is worthy of being her brother. He managed to make it come true with the help of a few books. Ryan fixed his hair and said, that's why he wasn't able to practice fighting skills. Priscilla said, Rain, she knows he suffered a lot. She understands that he hasn't practiced fighting to save his life, but he doesn't need to bother so much. She hugged him and said, sister was just worried that someone would secretly harm him. She won't suspect him anymore. MC replied, sister, he's really fine. As she can see, he's doing well, and she can even do things like this. Priscilla took his hand and said, that's good, but Rain, he must remember, no matter what happens, sister is always on his side. If there's something in his territory that needs help, let him just tell her. She will fully support him. Reen thought, sister, she was the one who insisted on it. He bowed his head and said, sister, he just has a place that needs help. Priscilla folded her arms under her chest and asked, does he need her help already? Let him tell her with what? Ryan said, sister, he hopes she can invest in him. This is a very important plan on which the future development of Essling rests. Priscilla put her hand to her lips and said, he shook a lot of resources out of those nobles. Is that not enough? MC replied, sister, it's not about money, but about people. Essling suffered enormous losses during the years of war and disasters. There is a particular shortage of people who understand technology and are capable of work. Priscilla frowned and asked, so he wants to ask her for people? MC replied, exactly. Sister, can she deliver experienced blacksmiths, farmers, and administrators from her lands? Of course, he's not asking for free. These people will definitely live well here and be able to learn new technologies. Priscilla twirled a strand of hair on her finger and said, his plan is not bad, but these people are the pillars of her land. Does he think she'll let them go so easily? Ryan replied, sister, she said she would fully support him. Now she's gonna go back on her word? Besides, once Essling develops, she will benefit too. Priscilla replied, okay. She said there was no need to judge her so quickly. She agreed to transfer several people here. However, first, he had to show her the results. She asked him to reassure her that her people wouldn't waste their time and effort by coming here. MC said there was no need to worry, sister. He would show her the power of industry. After a while, Priscilla turned to Gwen and said that what she feared hadn't happened. Rain was still the brother she remembered, not the Emperor's puppet. Gwen replied, young Master Rain is very intelligent and now he works very hard. He will definitely develop Essling for the better in the future. Priscilla reached for her mug and said, But she won't let the emperor send her brother go. Since the emperor sent rain and he became incapable of practicing martial arts, it would be fair to make him lose his son. She ordered them to find out everything about the princes and choose the easiest target. She will make the emperor pay for this. Gwen knelt down and said that everything will be done cleanly and efficiently. Please, let her not worry, miss. Priscilla frowned and thought, dog emperor, he touched the most precious person to her, so let him not blame her for revenge. After some time, the bandits were transporting cages with people inside. The guy said, boss, this time they grabbed valuable goods. If they sell them, they will get a huge sum. The fat man clenched his fist and said, most of the money from the sales goes to that old man Elderic. Why does he get so much money for nothing? The guy screamed, exactly, they risk getting caught and he devours the fruits. This case is becoming less and less interesting. The man turned around and ordered them to shut up. What does he know? No matter how greedy Elderic is, he still covers for them. Do they think they could come to Esling and walk around peacefully without someone covering for them? If they don't want to do this, then let them get lost. Suddenly, a loud shout was heard. Boss, this is not good. The guy stopped and said, boss, things are bad. The ruler of Esling has changed. The man asked, puzzled, what? He loudly ordered them to quickly tell him what's going on. The guy answered, he had just arrived at the gates of Esling and found that there was not a single one of the guards guarding it that he knew. At first, he wanted to spend some money to get closer to the guards, but he didn't expect that they would not only refuse him, but also start asking what he was doing and why he arrived so late. The guy lied that he was visiting relatives, which allowed him to bypass their suspicions. After that, he learned that the ruler of Esling was no longer Elderic. The guy asked, boss, why aren't they coming back? The man asked irritably, will they come back? Where will they come back? Where can they come back? Duke Eskar and the slave traders of the Orvis Empire have already made arrangements for these women, who will give them 3,000 gold coins if they don't deliver the potion. How can they return to Duke Eskar without this money? The bandit asked, but what if this new ruler doesn't want them to leave? The chief ordered not to panic. Whoever he is, he won't refuse money. The worst thing is that they will get a little less for this trip. If that's the case, then they can rest here tonight. Tomorrow morning, they will pretend to be a caravan of merchants and take more women with them. They will see how well they can blend in. If it works, they will make more trips. The fat man asked, boss, if they figured it out, can they be free tonight? The guy said happily, yes, boss. They don't know whether they will die or survive tomorrow. Maybe he will let the brothers have a little fun before they die? The fat man said, exactly, exactly. The boss closed his eyes and said not to touch the redhead, and they can use the rest as they want. The guys shouted happily, thank you, boss. The men laughed and turned back to where the people were sitting in the cages. After a while, a shout was heard. Let them move. They will spend the night in the cave tonight. The bandits shouted, yes, sir. The girl was crying and begging them to let her go. She was begging. The fat man held out his vile hands and asked her not to be afraid. Big brother would be very careful. She screamed in fear. No. Suddenly an order was given. Enough. Rosalind said, who are they? The bandits turned to her and asked, is that a woman? She looked at them with a serious expression and asked, who are they? And what are they doing with that girl? They looked at her with smiles and asked, I wonder what they are doing. They were just having fun, and why don't she join them? That's right, they guarantee she will have a great time. She started running away very quickly, which surprised both of them. She struck incredibly fast with her spear and broke the head of one of them. The second bandit was very scared because of this, and screamed loudly in fear. However, she quickly ran up to him and blew her spear. The rest of the bandits ran out of the cave and said that something was wrong. They saw her slowly walking towards them and emitting very evil energy. They ran back and loudly called for help from the boss. He heard their screams and wondered, what's going on there? He came out of the cave and saw Rosalind kill his gang members. The surviving gang members ran to him and called for help. He said with a displeased expression that he did not understand how they offended her. She asked, they kidnapped this girl. Is that not so? He said that she understood everything wrong. They are slave traders from the lands of Duke Eska. He showed a document and said that they are here to deliver these slaves to their masters as directed by the Duke. These are their official documents. She read it and thought that she remembered what Lord Rhine had said about this Duke. Earlier, he said that while she would patrol for the next few days, he asked her to help him keep an eye on everyone who arrived from Duke Eska's side. She agreed and asked if there was anything she should pay special attention to. He said with a smile that she should look for trouble. For now, the gang leader handed her a gold coin and asked if it was a misunderstanding. Could they pretend it never happened? She thought that although she didn't know what the young master meant by looking for trouble, now was the only thing she could do. She waved her spear and asked how dare they make trouble on the young master's territory? They must all kneel submissively, or they would only have themselves to blame. He became indignant at this and said that she shouldn't have started this. She was surrounded by his gang's men, and he asked if she really thought she could get out alive after facing so many people. Rosalind expertly swung her spear and said loudly that she would repeat, they must surrender or die. He ran towards her with his sword in his hand and said loudly that she wanted to die. He tried to attack her, but she threw him aside with a slight movement of her spear. She kicked him and threw him aside. When he fell to the ground, she put a spear to his head and said that if they all did not want to die, they should kneel. Knights galloped up to them. One of them called her and asked if she was okay. She said with a serious expression that they should arrest all these people. throw them in the dungeon, and wait for the young master's decision. After some time, Rosalind knocked on the door of his office, gave her name, and told the young master that she had something important to report. Having received permission to enter, she entered, knelt down, and said that she had recently caught a caravan from the lands of Duke Eska. The protagonist, with a joyful look, said that she found the problem very easily. He praised her and asked what this caravan was doing. She stood up and said that it was a caravan delivering slaves. They had documents from Duke Eska. She noticed his reaction and called him over with a slightly worried look. He asked, with a displeased expression, how dare they sell his labor force? These freaks are looking for death. After this, he and Leah came to the dungeon where the gang leader was chained. He looked at him with a calm expression and said that they were quite impudent bandits to dare sell people on his territory. He looked at him with a wide smile and said that he was the one who was impudent to dare to oppose Duke Eska. Although he did not know how he deposed that idiot Elderic and became the new ruler, he advised him to humbly ally with them, or his end would be miserable. He calmly looked at him and said that it sounded like the previous ruler had been in alliance with them for a long time. He agreed with a smile and said that they sold a lot of women to the Orvis Empire every year. Today he had only seen a small part of them. He looked at him with a serious expression because of what he heard and asked, does that mean they are hiding more women? Where are they? He laughed out loud because of this and asked, does he seriously want to know this? Then he should fall on his knees and beg him. However, even if he begs him, he still will not tell. He walked up to him and said that their lives are now in his hands. If he remains stubborn, then he guarantees that they will regret remaining alive. He did not take his words seriously and said that Duke Eska is protecting him. If he kills him, he can consider that he signed the death warrant. MC, with a calm expression, said that on his land, Duke Eska's protection is useless. He, with a displeased expression, said that he should stop pretending. He can't even think about being able to scare him. He called Leah with a smirk and said that she should teach him a lesson. She immediately pulled out a knife, which she immediately threw at the bandit's shoulder and agreed with the young master. He fell to the ground and screamed loudly in pain. He said with a frightened look that there was an abandoned hunting lodge in the southern forest where the rest of the goods were. He started to leave and said that Rosalind should take the cavalry and move out. They must save these girls. Leah agreed with the young master. He said that he hoped that he had not lied, otherwise he would make them regret living in this world. The bandit lay on the floor and thought that he should go to the slaughter. In the hunting lodge, there was a group of Duke Eska's assassins who would kill them all. After some time, they all rode together to the lodge. She went to the door, called the young master and said that he had not lied. There were signs that the hunting lodge was occupied. Rain said that they should set an ambush and not let a single person escape. He and Leah approached her. She took out her sword and said that she would check the door. She opened the door, and they were surprised when they saw what was inside. There were girls sitting in cages and begging not to be hit. He said with a serious expression that she should get these girls out of here. She agreed with the young master and went to the cage. Someone shot an arrow at Rosalind, but she noticed it and destroyed it with a blow of her sword. She turned around, loudly called out to the young master, and said that he must be careful. It was an ambush. A cavalry detachment must immediately protect the young master. One of the bandits with a serious expression asked, they are the people of the Grand Duke Aldarian, right? They do not need senseless conflicts. Can they calm down and talk? She said with a serious expression that they had nothing to talk about with people like them. She was about to say something else, but the protagonist asked her to wait. He asked what they wanted to talk to him about. The bandit said with a smile that they had been selling slaves to the Duke of Eska for years. High-quality slaves could be sold for more than 1,000 gold coins. Even the worst one could bring 100 gold coins. As long as he cooperated with them, they would be able to not only share the profits with him every year, but even find some goods according to his desires. How about if they delivered them to them for free? Rosalind was indignant about this and was about to say something, but he smirked and said that it sounded good. How much was he going to give him? This surprised her greatly, and she turned to him with a shocked expression. The bandit said with a smile that if he allied with them, they would give him 10,000 gold coins every year. He asked with a smile, did they take him for a poor man? His sister gives him more money every month for personal expenses. He was confused by this and asked my lord then, how much amount does he want? He asked, how about 100,000 gold coins a month? The bandit was indignant because of this and asked, is he joking with him now? They don't get that much money a year from selling slaves. MC, with a calm expression on his face, said that if they don't want to pay, they can forget about it. He, with a serious expression on his face, told Rosalind that she should turn them into arrow cushions. She agreed with him, and the knights took aim at them. The bandit was worried about this and said that he should wait. They can't make a deal because of such a large amount. He asks to let them return and report to Duke Eska. He thought that if they can escape, they will be able to report to Duke Eska so that he can send his warriors. He doesn't believe that he won't be able to kill their small group. He took out a bag of money and said that to prove their sincerity, they could leave 10,000 gold coins first. He refused this with a calm expression and ordered them to act. Rosalind agreed and was about to attack with her warriors. The bandits decided to escape, went outside and decided to retreat to the back mountain. She climbed on her horse, loudly called the archers and said loudly that they must shoot immediately. They cannot let them escape. They began to shoot from the bow, but the bandit leader turned around and began to use a shield made of the water element. He created a barrier with which he blocked all the arrows. She jumped very high, landed next to him and slashed with her sword, but missed. She said that all their people were already under their control. She raised her head with a serious expression and said that they should obediently accept their death. The bandit, with a displeased look, saw his comrades being killed and thought that if this continued, they would all die here. He saw Ryan standing nearby alone, and thought that this was the only chance to escape from here. He ran to him and said loudly that they should cover him and he would capture that guy. His gang members agreed and turned to him with weapons in their hands. Rosalind held back the attacks of several opponents, called out to the young master and said that he must be careful. Everyone must immediately protect the young master. They cannot let these freaks harm him. The knights ran to his aid, but the bandit was faster. He took out a dagger with a serious expression and said that he asked for it. He was surprised because he heard Leah ask, "Did he want to die?" She struck him hard in the face with her fist and threw him back hard. He flew several meters on the ground and asked, "Is this woman not an ordinary servant?" He jumped towards her with a dagger in his hand and loudly wished her death. She kicked him hard and sent him flying again. He fell to the ground next to the knights, who immediately surrounded him. She jumped towards him and asked, did he dare to raise a hand against the young master? To everyone's surprise, he didn't lose consciousness, threw a dagger at the protagonist, and loudly wished him death. She was surprised by what happened and loudly warned him of the danger. The dagger hit his shoulder, but he endured the pain from the wound. Everyone was very worried about what happened, but he, with a calm expression, said that they didn't need to panic. They needed to hold the line. The girls ran to him and loudly said that the young master was wounded. They must quickly protect the young master. The bandit, with a serious expression on his face, thought that he should use the chance to escape. They ran up to him. Rosalind turned to the knights and said that they must stop the chase. They needed to bring the young master back immediately. She called Leah and said that she should quickly bandage his wounds. She was surprised when she saw that she was not nearby and asked where she had gone. Taking advantage of the situation, the leader of the bandits ran into the forest and thought that he needed to escape quickly. He must survive and convey the news to Duke Eska. He noticed a person standing in his way and asked who was there. It was Priscilla, who with a calm expression wished him good evening. He stopped and thought that this woman did not look particularly dangerous. She said with a small smile that he should let her introduce herself. She is the eldest daughter of the Duke of Aldarian, the ruler of the lands of Turland. He was very surprised because of this, and asked, is she the eldest daughter of the Duke? Why is she doing this at all? He wondered if Duke Eska's deeds had been exposed. She said with a smile that the other side with whom they had fought in the valley before. These are the soldiers of the Duke's second son, her younger brother. He was very worried about this and wondered, was that man really the Duke's son? She said that the harvest tonight was big. Her brother's growing up. It's a pleasant surprise. He asked with a confused look, what did she mean? She went to him and said that her brother did not disappoint her after all. He was still an intelligent and calm person, able to maintain composure even when meeting trash like him. He could relax. She would not take any steps today. He asked, what did she mean by that? She said that she was just a spectator. After all, today he had provoked the most cruel person he could ever meet. Leah was standing behind him with a frightening expression on her face. The bandit started to turn around with a frightened look and wondered what was going on. His body was shaking badly. He turned to her and asked, was it her? She asked, does he think he can escape after harming the young master? He was very scared because of this and asked for mercy. However, she did not listen to him. She used magic and he was very surprised by this. He, with a frightened look, wondered what was happening to him. He cannot breathe. This is simply impossible. What kind of magic is this? She used magic to lift him into the air, drew a symbol of energy and read a spell. He began to feel severe pain and screamed loudly before cruelly dying from this spell. Because of this, his blood flew in different directions, and she created a barrier so as not to get dirty, and with a serious expression on her face said that he asked for death himself. She called Priscilla, who was standing nearby, and said that the young master was injured. She must return immediately to take care of him. She agreed with a calm expression on her face and said that she could go. Immediately after that, she ran back. She remained standing where she was, called Gwen, and asked if she thought she should remind him not to anger Leah. She emerged from the portal next to her and said that she was asking her not to worry. No matter what the young master did to her, she would never raise a hand against him. She said with a smile that she spoke as if her brother were a bad person. She was embarrassed by this, asked for forgiveness, and said that she would never dare to think so. Priscilla said with a smile that perhaps she should marry her to her brother. She said with an embarrassed expression that she was asking her not to joke like that. She called her by name with a serious expression and said that she should send someone to Duke Eska. Let them ask him if he had become insolent because he had too much free time. They must make him understand that the consequences of insulting the Edgar family are more terrible than he can bear. She nodded in agreement with her. She smiled and said that they should get back quickly. They can't let her brother find out that she slipped away. Sometime later, MC was sitting in his office. Leah bandaged his wound and asked if it hurt. He refused with a calm expression and said that it was just a scratch. He tried to move, but felt a lot of pain, and she, with a worried look, said that he shouldn't move. While his wound was healing, he was strictly forbidden to go outside. He touched her face with his hand and said that she shouldn't worry. It was just a scratch, and there was nothing to be afraid of. She refused and said that she wanted him to go and rest immediately as soon as she bandaged his wound. At that moment, Priscilla entered the office, called him loudly by name, and asked, she heard that he was wounded. Is it true? She ran very quickly to his desk and said that he should quickly let her take a look. Will this affect his life in the future? He said with a calm expression that the wound was really not serious. It was just a scratch. Leah, looking worried, told the young master that he should be more serious. She started crying from worry and said that if the dagger had deviated even by a millimeter, his life would be in danger. She, with a serious expression, said that she was right. He couldn't joke around with his life like that. Maybe he could tell her what was going on? He said that Rosalind had caught a group of bandits transporting women, and after a thorough interrogation, he learned that they were hiding some slaves in the valley. He led people to the village and found the imprisoned women, but when negotiations failed, a fight broke out. It was too dark. He didn't see the dagger thrown from the other side, and that's why he scratched his shoulder. She, with a serious expression, asked where these bandits got so much courage. Don't they know that slavery is prohibited in the Edgar family's lands? Leah called her name and said that according to the men in black, they were Duke Eska's men. Priscilla asked with a smile, how could that coward Eska dare to do such a thing on their lands? He said it was probably because Elderic was his insider. Judging by their tone, they must have made a lot of money over the years. She said that he had caused them a lot of trouble. However, what was he going to do now that everything had come to light? He held his injured shoulder and said he would check them tomorrow. He was short of manpower. If they have nowhere to go, they can stay in Esling. He will make sure they get a basic education and find them jobs in the city. She said it was a good idea. It will not only help them, but also replenish the city's workforce. He is getting wiser. He said that she should not praise him so much. He just wants to contribute to the family. She agreed and said that then she will not disturb his peace. Now he needs to be careful. His older sister is worried about him. He said that he understood her. She covered her smile with her hand, called Leah, and said that her brother's safety is in her hands, every aspect. She blushed a little and said that she can be sure she will never let the young master get hurt again. She laughed a little and left the office, where Gwen was already waiting for her. She called her and asked, is the young master okay? She said that nothing serious, just a few small wounds. However, she is very unhappy. She called Knox and said that he needed to help her with something. He immediately emerged from the portal next to her and said that he was asking for instructions. She said that he should go to the dungeon and ask the bandit leader what else he knew. He must not forget that he must stay alive. After all, her brother was supposed to interrogate him tomorrow, so he couldn't die. Sometime later, Armando came to Rain's office and told the young master that he admitted defeat and wished to serve him. He mockingly began to say that he wanted to die instead of serving a nobleman. After all, he was a young man with ideals and convictions and would rather starve to death. He stopped because his wound opened and he cried out in pain. He looked at him with a confused look and wondered, does this guy really deserve his loyalty? He looks like an idiot. The system notified that his loyalty had increased to 95 points. He thought that this guy was now completely impressed with his steam engine technology. However, now he must obediently go to work in the factory and correct himself. He called the young master and said that he knew he was wrong and asked him to stop joking. Could he do anything? He called him by name and said that he solemnly wanted to ask him this time. Did he want to serve him? He agreed and said that he wished to serve him and be his loyal subordinate. He got a second subordinate and said that then he could transgress today. He would be the first director of the workshop in Essling. He looked at him with a puzzled look and asked what a workshop director does. He was an alchemist after all. He handed him a drawing and said that he should take it and study it carefully. As soon as the dam was built, they would begin to accelerate the industrialization of Essling. Armando opened the drawing and thought that even Professor Liesel had not explained these drawings to him. How could he be smarter than her? At that moment, Rosalind ran into the office and loudly called the young master. The protagonist looked at her and asked what happened. She said that there was an urgent incident. The leader of the bandits was killed in the dungeon last night. Hearing this, they all came to the dungeon where the dead bandit lay. He looked at it and asked when they found out that he was dead. She said that it was half an hour ago. The guard discovered it when he brought him water. He looked at the dungeon wall and asked if anyone knew what these symbols were. Selena walked up to the wall and began to use her energy on these symbols. She said with a serious expression that there were traces of dark magic energy in the dungeon. Rosalind was a little surprised by this and asked, did she say dark magic? He said that Isling is really full of talented people. Leah, looking worried, called him and said that he had better leave as soon as possible. Dark mages are just slimy maggots, The remnants of their magic can make him feel unwell. He waved it off and said that she didn't need to worry so much. This dungeon is dry and well ventilated year-round, so the chance of contracting an infection is low. Selena turned to him and said that his maid might be right this time. It would be better to lead here first. Dark mages usually hide in dark corners, acting stealthily but deadly. Their magic is very powerful and can often cause large-scale disasters, like epidemics. He was surprised by this and wondered, could they cause epidemics? Were these people studying bacteria? She said that they still didn't know what motivated the dark mages to kill the bandits. It was one thing if it was done just to shut them up, but another if their eyes fell on him. Young master, they should think of everything in advance. Sometime later, at the Essling orphanage, MC stood in front of the children in the classroom, stated his name, and said that he was the ruler of Essling. Yesterday, he saved them from bandits, and now they had two choices. First, tell him where their home was, and he would organize a trip to return them there. Second, if they had nowhere to go, he would find them a job that included food and a place to live so they could stay here, and from then on, they would be his subjects. He patted one child on the head and asked, "So does anyone remember where their home is?" The children were silent, and he asked, "Don't they remember where their home is?" Iyuria called him over and said that most of these children were kidnapped at a very young age, and they had been through too much deception and intimidation. They probably didn't even believe that he was really trying to help them. He would have to earn their trust for a very long time. He looked at her with a small smile and said that it wasn't necessary. He was the best with children. He called Leah and said that she should go to the kitchen and bring some dessert, preferably cookies, and a big one. They are all hungry, aren't they? These are the best cookies in Eiling. They can try them. The children looked at him with disbelief and said nothing. He held out a cookie and said that she could try it first. She didn't have to eat it if she didn't like it. He would never force them to do anything. The girl took the cookie from his hands, tried it, and liked it. The other children became interested in this, and all took the cookies he brought. They liked it too, and he said that now they should play a game. It's called Truth or Dare. The child asked what kind of game it was. He took out some cards and said that this game was very simple. Each of them takes turns drawing cards with questions. The person who drew a card must answer the truth or accept a small challenge. If they answer or complete the task, they will get a cookie. A few hours later, one of them said her name was Mia, and her home was in the east, a small village called Glen. Reen patted her on the head and said she was very brave and thanked her for telling him. She shouldn't worry, he would send someone to escort her home. He turned around and said they should gather people to escort the children home tomorrow. He thought it looked like they needed to find someone to look after these children temporarily. By the way, first he needed to see if there were any talented people among these children. He opened the window with their stats and thought that if there were, he could take this opportunity to get them personally. He thought they were ordinary children, but he noticed something and wondered, what stats did this girl have? The system announced that she was Elia Ferrano, 17 years old, leadership 42 points, strength 90 points, loyalty 50 points, magic 88 points, strategy 30 points. He was surprised by what he saw and wondered if this child had the same characteristics as Leah. That night, Priscilla called Knox with a serious expression on her face and asked why the bandit leader died. He said that he did not kill him, only tormented him a little with black magic. She asked, "So did he explain anything?" He refused and said that he knew nothing. He was trusted with too little. She put a cup of tea on the table and asked, since he knew nothing, why would someone need to kill him? He said that he assumed that his death might not be connected with some knowledge, rather it was supposed to serve as an impetus for something. Some black magic spells require the death of a person. She asked with a serious expression, did he understand that he must protect her brother? He agreed, and she thought that it seemed like she finally succeeded this time. At the same time, in the Duke's bedroom, Eska. He was sitting on the bed with two girls, but a knight came to them and said that he apologized for disturbing them. However, a high-ranking guest arrived to see him. He asked with a serious expression, who was disturbing him at such a time? He said it was Lord Elderic of Asling. He said that he had something important to discuss. He wondered if he had come at such a time to present a new gift. He got out of bed and said that he should take him to the office, and he would be there soon. He thought with a wide smile that all the girls he sent were very beautiful. It seems that tonight they will bring a new beautiful girl. He came to the office and said that they had not seen each other for a long time. He showed up so late in person. It seems that he has very good goods. Elderic with a serious expression said that he apologized for interrupting his pleasant pastime. This time the gift was not a woman, but good news. Eska sat down on a chair and asked what this news was. He said that he was kicked out of Esling by the third son of the Grand Duke. In the future, they will not be able to get beautiful girls from all over the world. He was surprised by what he heard and asked how he dared to kick him out. He helped him for so many years, but now he just kicked him out. He said that the third son is now the ruler of Essling. He was too young and self-confident. He thought that everything was under his control. Last night, he infiltrated Essling and personally dealt with the bandit leader who was able to deliver slaves to him. Eska asked if he had found out about what they were doing. Elderic said that it was very likely so, which is why he, risking his life, came here and told him the news. He asked if he meant that he would attack him personally. He said they both knew that the Empire prohibited international slave trade. He had policy differences with his father, and he suspected that he would most likely use this to take revenge on him. Eska, with a slightly worried look, thought that if the emperor found out about his tricks, he would die. He asked if he had any good ideas. He said with a smile that, when he left Esling today, he heard the news that the dam was built. This was a good opportunity to start acting. He did not understand this, and asked what it was. Eldrick said that he had heard from him that it was a device for collecting water. The water collected by this device could fill the lowland of the city of Esling. They would use the dam to cause a disaster, flooding cities and people. He would have the opportunity to send troops to occupy the city and solve the problem once and for all. He was surprised by what he heard and asked loudly, does he want him to kill the son of the Aldarian Grand Duke? He refused and said that it was completely impossible. If the Grand Duke found out, he would definitely die. He approached him and with a serious expression said that if he reported him to the Emperor, he would also die. If the death of the Duke's son was blamed on the dam, the Grand Duke would not be able to say anything. No one knows what the dam is used for anyway, right? Besides, if he captured Esling, he would not need help to find any beautiful woman he wanted. Eska agreed to his plan and said that then he should follow his plan. Sometime later, Elia was sitting in the protagonist's office and drinking tea with cookies. He looked at her with a confused look and wondered, 3 days have passed. Why hasn't she said a word? He called her by name and asked how she liked the cookies. She remained silent with a sad look, and he wondered what kind of treatment this child had to endure. Had those bandits really bullied her and she developed an illness? Lillian entered the office, called him, and with a happy expression on her face, said that the dam was built. He smiled and said that it was finally over. At least, some good news in recent days. He called Leah and said that she should immediately call the elves and know Aisling so that they could witness this moment. He wanted them all to know that Aisling had entered a new era. He looked at Elia and said that he was going to a very lively event. Would she like to go there? Not only would there be delicious food and drinks, but there would also be a lot of children her age with whom she could play. She sat down sadly and said nothing. He said that he would leave 2 maids here to keep an eye on her. If she wanted to go, she could just tell them. After some time, many high-ranking officials gathered at the dam. The elf queen asked the young master, will this dam withstand so much water? Even they, elves, are powerless when faced with mountain streams. MC, smiling, told Her Majesty that she need not worry. He personally thought out every aspect of the dam, and the design is completely tailored to the laws of nature and the principles of engineering. Today they will see the true power of this structure. Selena flew to them and told the young master that everything he ordered had been carried out. They installed 3 thick chamber slabs at the outlet of the dam so that it can withstand the water pressure. Under the stone slab is an iron reducer that regulates the water flow and prevents the dam from suddenly getting out of control. He praised her and said that today he would be happy to share with them the first release of water since the dam was completed. Together they would witness how this great project would bring new life and hope to Esling. The queen told the young lord that there was so much water on the other side. If he was not careful and an accident happened, the farmland below would suffer terribly. Priscilla asked, the dam is so massive, is it really safe to release water like this? They cannot joke with the lives of ordinary people. He said with a calm expression that they need not worry, this small stream of water will not harm them. The dam design had been tested and approved many times, and he personally was absolutely confident in its safety. He thought that today, the water would immediately flow down and the farmland would be irrigated, and this would change the future of Esling. He said with a small smile that they need not worry, this dam would be a miracle that they would all witness today. The elf queen said that then they should watch it together. The 3 of them walked up to the lever and put their hand on it. At that moment, Eldrick flew up to them, laughed, and called out to the master. They all turned to him, and he said with a wide smile that they hadn't seen each other for a long time. She looked at him and asked who this man was. Priscilla, with a displeased look, said that he was the previous ruler of the city, who had recently rebelled and been driven out by her brother. Ryan called him by name and said that he felt like he had died in the previous war. He didn't expect that he was living so well. What was he doing here? He looked at them with a smile and said that he had now joined the Orvis Empire and become a nobleman. He asked with a calm expression, so he interfered because he was dissatisfied with the treatment of aristocrats in the Orvis Empire. He said with a mad look that he had come here to take revenge. He started laughing and asked, did he decide to take revenge alone? Did he eat something poisonous that destroyed his brain? Eldrick laughed and asked, does he think he would break into Esling alone? Does he consider him an idiot? He sent a team of strong men upstream. As soon as he gives the order, they will use powerful water elemental magic, a stream that will fall from above onto the dam, go downstream and destroy his dam, which was supposed to be a miracle, and it will kill all of Esling. The queen was surprised and worried about what she heard. Priscilla was very angry about this and asked, how dare he? She swears on the name of the Edgar family, no matter which empire he escapes to, she will bring him back. He laughed loudly and said that her expressions of impotent rage made him laugh very much. He launched a ball of energy into the air and loudly said that they should die in the flood. A ball of energy exploded in the sky, and at that very moment, a huge amount of water began flowing toward the dam. The Elven Queen was surprised by what she saw, called him, and said that they needed to get out of there quickly. It was too dangerous. The protagonist stood calmly in place and said that they didn't need to panic, that no matter how much water he released, the dam would never collapse. She looked at him with concern and asked if he was absolutely sure of that. She was about to say something else, but he said that he had already taken all the safety measures. Every stone slab and every set of gears had been calculated. No matter how powerful the flow, it couldn't destroy the stone project. He pulled the lever and opened the dam, through which water began to flow. However, the plates couldn't withstand the force of the water and began to crumble under the torrent. Elderic began to laugh and said that his dam was completely useless. The queen, looking worried, said that the dam really was failing. They needed to get out of here quickly, otherwise the current would swallow them up. Priscilla, looking worried, said he should leave with her quickly. MC calmly looked at the powerful flow of water and said they shouldn't panic. That much water wasn't enough to destroy his dam. Is that all his current can handle? The stone slabs continued to crack under the flow of water. Elderic began concentrating energy in his hand and asked, does he still dare to be stubborn? His dam was already crumbling. If he wanted to die so much, he would grant his wish. Using his energy, he increased the flow of water, and another slab was destroyed. The elven queen looked at this from the edge of the dam and asked if everything was all right. Priscilla called him and said that they really couldn't stay here any longer. He called them with a calm expression and said that it was too early to worry. They should wait a little longer. Elderic continued to concentrate the energy in his hand and said that he would let his dam collapse along with his stupidity. He again intensified the flow of energy, which broke another plate. They were both surprised by this, and his sister asked how this was possible. The third section had already been washed away. Rain said with a smile that it had finally begun. The mechanisms began to move, the shutters opened, and one of them asked if the water had changed its course. Priscilla, with a surprised expression, asked, is this flow of water heading towards the lands? He thanked Elderic with a smile and said that if it weren't for him, he would have had to spend the magic of his mages to irrigate the fields. He was indignant about this and asked if he had used his magic. He said with a small smile that this dam, from the very beginning, had not simply stopped the water, but had used the power of the flow to irrigate all the lands. The greater the flow, the more abundantly the lands would be watered. He was grateful to him for that. He was very angry about this and said that it was impossible. He calmly looked at him and said that it looked like his great plan had failed. So shouldn't they talk about what they didn't have time to talk about last time? He began to fly away with a displeased look and said that he was lucky this time. However, they would meet again soon. He calmly looked at him and said that he came and went as he pleased. Does he seriously think that his city is an amusement park? He called Selena and said that she should catch this idiot and bring him to him. She began to use magic and agreed with the young master. She used high-level lightning magic, thunder. She attacked him with a powerful stream of energy, and he didn't have time to defend himself. The protagonist, with a calm expression, said that he proposed to continue discussing the investment plan where they had previously settled. After some time, the three of them came to the office, and the queen said that his dam had finally opened her eyes. Priscilla agreed, and asked what they should do with the investment plan he was talking about. He said with a smile that the dam had solved the water problem that was causing inconvenience to the city, but to make Esling seriously rise, they needed to invest in a prosperous economy. She asked if he wanted to organize trade caravans. He refused and said that they would receive money for it. She asked if he wanted to raise the toll. However, this would most likely cause discontent among the merchants. After all, he had eliminated Caesar and his gang for arbitrarily collecting tolls. He refused and said with a serious expression that he wanted to create a society that would serve the merchants, to make them leave all the money they earned here.